Labrīt, esiet sveicināti.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, dear participants of the conference. As you see from the title, the conference is dedicated to digital data in the world.
Līdz salāgojam.
We are all on the move, and it's important for the data to move with us. So today we will be speaking about the recent trends in Europe, in the world, about digital data. You will have the possibility to ask questions, to have a discussion, and so to Academic Information Center and to our guests from abroad. And I am Gundars Reiders, I'm the moderator, but for the introductory address I will give the floor to Baiba Ramiņa, who is the head of Academic Information Center. Good morning. I'm very happy to see you at our conference. I'm very happy that you found time to come. First of all, I have to apologize on behalf of Liga Lejiņa. Unfortunately, she had other obligations, other duties she had performed, so I'll be the only one opening this event. About different digital data, digital documents, educational documents, all these matters have been discussed for quite some time already. We are used that we are the best and that everything is going on in Europe and that we are the pioneers. However, if we look at all this in the context of using digital documents, it's not quite the case. In the world, we see that the use of such documents is more developed, and Vittoriano Giralt from who is the president of Groningen Declaration will tell more about it. In Europe, lately, these digital matters are mentioned in many documents. For example, the agenda of new skills 2016, it also deals with digital skills that everyone entering labor market should have. So it means that all of us should have the skills and we should be able to work with the digital documents. Talking about the renewed program 2017 of higher education, it also refers to digital learning strategies that our institutions of higher education work with, and it also deals with potential of technologies, and all this leads to different IT solutions in higher education institutions. This conference is held in the framework of Europass. Probably you know that this recommendation is currently being reviewed. A new draft has been developed, and it also could influence our work in the future and quite strongly. Currently, this has not been approved yet because member states have different objections. Member states are trying to reach an agreement with Commission on different wording and perhaps easier solutions. And there is hope that it could be approved by the end of the year within the presidency of Estonia. And we hope that this is going to be so. What this recommendation is talking about? It is said that the use of different digital technologies and platforms should be increased, and also that new skills and new qualifications should be presented also in digital form. The digital documents and qualifications should be such that we are able to recognize them and to verify authenticity of these. And also in informal education, all the skills obtained in informal education should be included in a digital framework. And also, the novelty in this new Europass context is the following. Education documents like documents that prove qualification, then annexes and supplements to diploma of higher education. In the future, these should be in electronic form. And also, in general, digital diplomas are discussed now. So these are the trends. Different development strategies are moving towards this. Of course, this does not mean that we have to change our system overnight and to do everything tomorrow, but we have to start thinking about it and considering it and what it means for us, whether we want it, whether we need it, and whether we are able to do it. So this is the first discussion here on such digital documents. I'm very happy that our foreign guests found it possible to come and to share experience, and I hope that we are going to have a very productive day. Thank you. So we don't have the other speaker for introductory speech, but this means we are going to have more time for interesting presentations. Now Victoriano Hiralt, who is the president of Groningen Declaration Network, and that's a very interesting trend, and he will tell more about it. And you will also have the possibility to put questions.
We hope it will be interesting performance.
I trust it. Yeah, I use this one because I like to move when I talk. I was talking to someone, I don't see you, that I like to be the clown. So let's open the morning. So hello, good morning everyone. Thank you, Baiba, for bringing me here. And well, you know, when I was preparing this, I was talking to Baiba and to Samit, and we were thinking, and then I read the beautiful text. I even like this one. I cannot pronounce it, but it sounds even better than in English. Digitali dati mobilitatis, because it sounds that the data is moving, so it sounds nice. I will not try this one. And when I saw that, it's clear that the Groningen Declaration can help the data move. And it's a big work for that. So it's clear that humans are a nomadic species. We like to move around. I'm here, I'm happy. And I traveled quite a long way to come here from southern Spain, but I like it. And the other day talking to someone, in the course of 1 year, I had crossed the equator 4 times. And if I manage to go to Melilla, this year I will have put my foot on 5 continents. So we are nomads. We like to move around. And nomads travel with their belongings, right? But probably some of us in the room that are old enough and have been traveling for long enough remember these things. Probably you are like me, so you remember, and Vera probably also remembers this kind of things. Some of you younger don't know what the thing is. It's a piece of paper that had a red copying ink on the back that was did a mess on your white shirts, and you need the thing to travel because it's a flying ticket. That's an airplane ticket. I've used them. And I'm not so old. I've used them in the 90s. Well, nowadays we do these things. I'm not James Bond. It's just the sequence. So we do this, and you scan this. And yesterday in Frankfurt, I scanned my phone, and I didn't have to show it to anyone. I just scanned my phone and boarded the plane. I prefer interacting with people, but it's pretty convenient. It's fast, and so we like flying without papers, right? It's pretty convenient. You don't lose your papers. It's in your phone, and you try not to lose your phone when you're traveling. But as Bible was saying, our life is made of many things. It's a formal academia, that's easy. We get diplomas, we get supplements, we get everything. But then we have informal job training, or we self-train, or we just live, and by living, we learn. So there are so many things we learn in our lives that we cannot even prove that we have learned, that we need some way to do that. And my good friend Tom Black, then at Stanford, now in Johns Hopkins, he moved to Coasts. He said one day to me, all your documents are born digital. And that's absolutely true. The contract I was signing this morning several times was born out of a PDF. And I could sign the PDF electronically. So why did we print it out? Because nowadays we do this. We travel with our papers, you know, on a card or on a backpack. That's quite stupid in the 21st century. We should deal away with paper. We are killing the forest. We are killing the rivers, because to make a white piece of paper, you have to use bleach. And bleach is something that is very bad for the environment. And we have to print, and we push a button, and we print several copies of the thing that we don't need, and we print a copy, and then we do something, print another copy with it, and we don't recycle. That's crazy. And it's clear, digitalization is a must. But there's a big problem. Digital change is a culture change. We have to change cultures. We have to tell the accountant that a PDF signed with an electronic signature is a valid document. And the printout of that thing becomes invalid the time it's printed. So the original is the electronic one, not the paper one. But it's not easy. And it takes some time. But we are here, we are convinced, and we are working on that. So, some of us in 2012 presented the Groningen Declaration to the world. A good friend of mine had a wonderful idea. I think it's a good friend of some of us in the room. Had a wonderful idea, put it onto a piece of paper, which is a bit weird, and created the Groningen Declaration. And the Groningen Declaration has a big declaration of intent. It's nothing more than that. Citizens worldwide should be able to consult and share their authentic educational data with whomever they want, whenever they want, wherever. And that's the most important three things. It's mine, so I can do with it whatever I want. Well, you know, as a Groningen Declaration, you have to see the Groningen Declaration commercial. Click.
We book our plane tickets online, we do our banking online, and we keep our important information in the cloud, so it's always there when we need it. But we don't do that with some of the most important documents in our lives. Our diplomas. We're still dealing with them the way we have for decades, even centuries. On paper. Paper is nice and tangible, but not really practical. You can lose it, misplace it, or have it stolen. It can be torn, burnt, or eaten by your dog. And even if it doesn't, there's another problem. It could be fake. Documents can be quite elaborate to prevent forgeries, but it's not easy to establish whether you're dealing with a valid document or a piece of paper with nicely printed decorations, an impressive seal, and pretty handwriting. And even if it is the real thing, the person presenting it might be using a document that doesn't belong to them to try and pass off someone else's credentials as their own. So paper is clearly not practical. Not for you, not for the schools, universities, or employers that need your diploma in order to enroll you or give you a job. The good news is that there are organizations that register diplomas centrally in a database. They are called Educational Data Depositories. They store all the educational data that has to do with you. Until recently, these data were primarily used to print out a document on paper. But this is a thing of the past. Today, information is outdated the moment it's printed. So the depositories have done away with paper and made your educational data directly available. Which is great, because now you can access them online, just like your plane tickets, bank account, and the pictures from last year's skiing trip. And so can the schools, universities, and employers that need to check your educational data. Also, since the data come directly from the schools and universities that issue them, forgeries are no longer an issue. So now for the next step. Data depositories manage educational data in a national setting. But what if you were born in Beijing, graduated in Boston, and want to apply for a job in Zurich? That would go a lot smoother if you could choose to share your educational data internationally. To make that possible, national depositories are working together in an initiative called the Groningen Declaration. We book our plane tickets online, we do our banking online, and we keep our important information in the cloud, so it's...
Okay, I hope you like the commercial. So, in summary, we came to a mission that is aiming to deliver digital student data portability, a vision towards a trusted digital student data ecosystem with values, security and privacy. That's very important when we are talking digital things. But, well, the Commission has come to help us with the GDPR that will come into force next May, and there are a lot of things going around, and we will talk. You know that I'm a very technical guy, so in a few minutes we will be diving into modern, beautiful things. And then recently, just last month, we came with 3 strategic aims. Provide expertise to lead the global adoption of strategies in the digital learner data ecosystem. Be an umbrella that facilitates collaboration, engagement and synergies everywhere in the world. And partner with projects and organizations that are committed to advancing the data mobility. And with inclusive participation, so trying to help those that are not as advanced as we are. That's a duty that we have to do. Go to those places we know that they don't know, share our knowledge and bring them forward. And the Groningen Declaration is mostly a public space where we can discuss things. We meet everywhere, from everywhere in the world, from any field related to the digital data ecosystem. Lawmakers to techies like me. And then, as I said, changing cultures takes some time. But today, change is accelerating. That's a sign of the times. Change is fast. And there are many things happening. In 2004, probably Vera and Baiva that were there remember me talking about the possibility of an edu-coin. Oops, that was dreaming, right? Well, in 2017, with the help of the Groningen Declaration, we held an event about blockchain in education. So edu-coin is coming. Just 3 years after we were dreaming in Washington. That's fast, huh? How we did it? We have been traveling the world. We started in Groningen, then they went to Beijing, then they went to Washington, then they went to Malaga, then they went to Cape Town, Melbourne, and next year we will be in Paris. And with a theme for every one of our conferences. Okay, I will not read them. You will have it, so note it. And we've been doing pilots. Netherlands, normal. China and the USA. And I would like to see more pilots flourishing without so many Americans involved. Okay, so that's something for you here. Find a country that you can do a pilot with. Come to the Groningen Declaration and tell us about. Because, you know, USA always there. Why not Latvia and Spain? The problem is our Ministry of Education, and this will be recorded, I don't mind. And we have assembled task forces. We had one for the principals that did a wonderful job, and now it's closed, but they deserve to be there. Business case, dissemination. I'm the one in charge of dissemination, and all of us disseminate and tell everyone what we are doing. Pilots, privacy, cross-border, even our vision. And we are connected through our members, or through our participants. I cannot say member. I'm obliged by Dutch law, and we cannot say members because we are a foundation. So participants. They connect us to many projects. Actually, Mats is here. He will be talking about MREX. Liga will be talking about Erasmus without papers, and many of them. And we foster collaboration. And this is a success case that was presented this year in Melbourne that I'm very proud of, because it's working. Oh, there's a comma. That should be a dot. It's working. It's online. It's sharing of academic data between all Australian and New Zealand universities. It's person-centric, because it's the student, the owner of the data, that decides where the data goes. It's serving a big part of the world. It's implemented by an Irish company down under. And it was born, it started in Malaga during the Groningen Declaration annual meeting. So that's it. That's the idea. Come to our meetings. Do it. Let's do it. That's the idea. Well, as I was saying, blockchain is a hot topic at the moment. Being a techie, I should be talking blockchain to you today, just to start the day and speak about. But there's an interesting thing in blockchain. Chains are not born equal. Warn you. It's muddy waters. The sands, you know. It's shaky territory at the moment. There's a lot of movement. So don't jump into the bandwagon of blockchain right now, but keep an eye on it. Okay? This is a beautiful medieval chain. I took a picture in a beautiful town above Cannes, and this, you know what this kind of chain is. So I wanted you to see two very different chains, so you know that not every blockchain is the same thing. It's important because it's a technology that gives trust and gives distributed capacity and security to digital things. So it's very important. But it's shaky at the moment. It's dangerous. Some of the chains could burn our world. This is just a Christmas pudding burning. But it could be our world, because it's a sphere. I couldn't find a burning world, and I decided that this nice pie would make it. Just last 1st of November, this guy, which is very much involved in cryptography, was saying this. 1 Bitcoin transaction burns more electricity than a normal house in a week. And there are many Bitcoin transactions every day. That's the biggest thing that the blockchains at the moment are very worried about. All experts, that's 10:30. It's something that reminds me that my mother is fortunately still alive, so if I can, I ring her. It just reminds me not to forget to ring my mother every day, or 2-3 days, okay? So, as I was saying, the experts are quite worried with the energy consumption of the blockchains. There are different blockchains. Some of them are trying not to be energy intensive. There are different mathematical ways of doing it. But keep an eye. Do not jump into the Bitcoin thingy at the moment, because it's very energy inefficient. So we're doing away with paper, and we're killing our world consuming energy for the proofs of the blockchains. Oops. Think about. And they have a lot of friends. There's a lot of movement at the moment in the technological space about how to transfer data, how to make it user-centric, how to prove things. And there's big names involved in the game, like the W3C. This is the consortium that creates the standards for the web, and the web we use every day. So there are many things that I'm trying to keep an eye on, but it's crazy. The pace of creativity at the moment is absolutely amazing. So keep these names inside your heads. Zero knowledge credentials. Self-sovereign credentials. I say that I know something. How can I prove it? Web payments is underneath all these things. So money is flowing with these things, and money is an important thing, so it will go. Linked data is data that is connected to you somehow. So all this is happening in the world at the moment. And I would say that the blockchains are a wave that is here to stay. If I've learned something in this past 30 years that I've been doing deep technology, is that I have devised sort of a nose for technologies that will work. And I think that this blockchain thing is a wave that is coming here and will stay in one form or the other, but it will stay. And the banks are betting on it, and the banks know what to do with their money. We can surf the wave, or we can perish under the wave, but the wave is coming. So if we are warned and we keep an eye on it, we will know what will happen. I don't know which one will win, on how it will go, but it will come. The wave will come, and if we are not ready, it will sink us. So how can we surf? Well, get ready. Be person-centric. Okay? We do not own any data, we as institutions. The owners of the data are the persons the data is about. So we should be person-centric. Anything we invent, devise, or do should have that focus, because that's the wave that's coming. That's what the blockchain is all about. Giving power to the individuals, removing power as much as we can from the institutions or whatever. Be person-centric. But wait, we were talking about data depositories. Most of us are in this business. Shall we close them? Oops. No way. Because the chains can just prove that something exists and had a given form in a given point in time. But they cannot store a whole document, a transcript, or whatever cannot be stored in the chain at the moment. Maybe 10 years down the lane, you will come to me and say, you remember saying that we shouldn't close the depositories, and now we can store things in the chain. Well, you know, that could happen. Technology is like that. But at the moment, you cannot store things. Well, Microsoft is trying to do that, but probably, well, you know. So, at the moment, we shall keep them and connect to new technologies and be ready. But we shouldn't. We need safe places to store documents, and academic institutions, depositories, universities are trustworthy places to do that, not the commercials. Because commercials come and go. Universities have hundreds of years of history. Mine is very young, and it's 45 years. Then Salamanca is celebrating its 800th anniversary this year. So, you know, we really live long. So that's it. The GDN is open to all of you. Actually, we are opening up the signing procedures. Soon, probably, we will have even an electronic procedure to join the GDN. So you go there. Soon, we will have a brand new website. But at the moment, we have one that it's, well, as it is. And we have an email that you can contact us. So that's it. Paldies. Thank you. And this is compulsory on all my presentations. Questions and read the fine print. Answers not assured.
Okay, paldies. Thank you. Questions? Please. We have a first question. Baiba Ramiņa.
Yeah.
I think you
Thank
have to push somewhere so it becomes
No,
red.
it's working. My question is about partnership of Groningen Declaration, because you are inviting us to participate. Okay, Academic Information Center is a member of Groningen Declaration. We joined in 2014 in Malaga, like Russia in the same time. But who can be this partner individual, university, state institution, state as such?
Since recently, signers of the declaration have to be institutions. Any kind of institution, from a ministry down to a commercial or a small university. Anyone that abides to our rules can sign the declaration. But now, since last December, we became a foundation. So we became a foundation to keep the network running. So we have devised a supporting scheme that we have sent the first round just 2 days ago. And even individuals can become supporters of the Groningen Declaration. So if you believe in what's behind the Groningen Declaration and you want us to succeed and want to help in that, even an individual can join as a participant in the declaration and, of course, vote with your euros. It will a very modest fee. So an individual, if my brain is still working, will be 100 euros a year. And for academics, will be 500, I think, and commercials 1,000. So it's pretty modest. We need some money because I was telling about, well, this is commercial, but it's clear. I was telling you about a good friend of mine that invented the declaration, and he's jumped believing in his idea. And I say this to anyone who wants to listen to me. We need to pay the salary of this guy. So the declaration at this moment needs money. We need money. Not much, just a modest thing, because we were supported by the Dutch Ministry of Education up to last year. And then from that, we have to be financially viable. The annual conference helps, but we need some more support. But anyone that believes in that can join. And of course, if you cannot pay, you are even welcome to join and participate. But we are devising ways that those that participate with their euros get more services, so to say, but we are open to anyone. Okay, anyone, and we are going to open the joining and signing to universities, so we get as much signatures as we can. Thanks. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Vēl kādi jautājumi, lūdzu?
Any other questions? This is a possibility to put questions.
We saw many partners in many countries, but they are still like pilot projects, more or less. Why they don't hesitate to join you? What are main objections of universities? What they are saying, and what you are saying to them?
No, actually, we don't have more universities at the moment, because in our as we started, the idea was to bring in the ministries and depositories. And through the years, we have learned that there's a lot of activity in universities. And it has required several meetings of the board and 2 vocal members of that board, like Tom Black from then Stanford, now Johns Hopkins, and this in front of you from another university saying, why don't we open up to universities? And well, the discussion in the end, in the last board meeting, we won. We are opening up for universities, so any universities that want to join, come in, because in Europe, it's very ministry-centric. And the Groningen Declaration was born in Europe, so we were after the ministries and the NARICs and all this kind of places where information is collected. But then you go out into the rest of the world, and there's no such ministerial infrastructure. It's the universities themselves that do the things. So now we are open. We've brought in Melbourne, we've brought in Texas, and we are bringing in university associations. So now there's no barrier for universities to join.
Okay, ministries first in Europe.
That was our initial intention, but now that's changed.
Paldies. Ir vēl šobrīd.
Well, thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you.
The discussion later. We can discuss any subjects. And, mēs iesim tālāk.
team. So we move on now. And the next speaker is Liga Kuzmani, European University Foundation on digital future of student mobility in Europe. I'm very happy to, you have
Your microphone.
the microphone should be used.
In English, and my name is Liga. As it was already mentioned before, the presentation is going to be about one initiative that is taking place at the moment in Europe. So before starting, I am going to introduce myself. I'm representing the project on behalf of European University Foundation and Erasmus Without Paper Network itself. I'm not working with the project itself, I'm working with smaller scale initiatives and the digital projects. And the purpose of this presentation is to inform and let you know about the initiative itself, the developments, the current state of art, and things that we are planning and working on for the future. So, in a nutshell, yes, there's going to be a short introduction. Erasmus Without Paper, many of you might have already heard about the initiative itself, and it has already finished. And the next stage, the second part of the project and the follow-up initiative is about to start this next year. As a little bit of a background information and a little bit of background itself, because the Erasmus Without Paper is very much linked to the program itself. This year, Erasmus program was celebrating 30th anniversary, and there were a lot of ways how European Commission, how universities were looking back at the program, at its achievements, milestones in terms of number of participants, and you can see that it's from 3,000 participants back in 1987, it has grown up to 9 million, together with all the programs and together with other related initiatives that have been launched throughout the years. If looking closer at the higher education part, you can also see the steady and gradual increase of mobilities. And again, those 3,000 euros during the first academic year of mobilities have grown up to more than 350,000 mobilities this academic year. Of course, also now adding traineeship possibilities for students in addition to academic mobility. And in total, it is roughly 4.5 million student exchanges all over. And this means that it is a lot of data and a lot of information to manage, to handle, and to work with for universities as well as for students. And this is also the context of the project itself. So yes, student mobility is there and it's growing, it's very successful. It is both successful in Europe and it's growing and increasingly going beyond the European Union as well. And at the same time, it, as I also mentioned, it means handling a lot of data. And although a lot of universities, and especially the ones that have a lot of student mobilities, have already put in place sophisticated IT systems that allow to manage the data more efficiently, there are still a lot of cases where a lot of data is still managed in paper or electronic documents, Excel files, and in a way like that, and it is still paper-based and scan-based in many, many cases. I have worked for a little while at the university in Spain, and at some point it felt a little bit like that in terms of documentation. Of course, it's an exaggeration. Of course, it is not so that almost everything is there, but still, there are a lot of information that is exchanged and is even required in paper, which is not the most demanding, not the most rewarding work for international relations offices, and also it is not the most efficient work in terms of cost and efficiency. The Erasmus Without Paper project at the very beginning did a mapping exercise. There was a survey launched, and more than 1,050 universities have responded to the survey. And there are some of the results and some of the findings that you can see in the next two slides. And the first one, the workload surrounding the management of Erasmus exchanges is high or very high. This is very clear from this graph. And even despite the fact that the Erasmus Plus program, the next framework or this current framework that started in 2014, aimed to have a more simple way of handling information and easier way of management, it did not turn out to be the way, especially at the very beginning. And this is the second question that where we also have some data proving that, and the opinion of majority, 67-68% of respondents, saying that the changes introduced by Erasmus Plus program in 2014 have actually increased the workflow, not decreased. There were many reasons why things happened this way, with the new tools, with new digital tools, and some things that needed to be done, maybe double. And but at the same time, it also proves that it is not a very inspiring environment at the moment for universities. And this is also something that Erasmus Without Paper would like to look into. This is a context, two main aspects and two main negative consequences that might, or three consequences that might be there due to this administrative workload that is constantly increasing. Is first that it is clear that international relations office capacity is not increasing proportionally with the number of mobilities that is growing, neither with the changes that sometimes every 7 years are taking place. And of course, it also makes it more demanding and more difficult to reach the target of EU of reaching 20% of mobile students by 2020. Yes, and this is Erasmus Without Paper, the first part of the project, which started in 2015 and it finished this year. There was the final conference in Brussels in September. And what it is about, if you have not heard about the initiative before, then I'll try to outline briefly the concept and idea of the project and the goals. The first thing is, one back. Yeah. The first main thing is, and the key word of Erasmus Without Paper project is that the interoperability. And what is meant there and what is the idea behind is that there are a lot of IT systems that exist in universities, but they don't necessarily communicate with each other. So if there is some data in one, it does not necessarily mean that the other one is going to be able to use the data that is stored there already. So this interoperability, the point here is that the systems are able to communicate together and make use of the data. So basically be able to reuse and recycle, not recycle, but actually make good use of the data that is stored in some other one. And that is a little bit of a revolution, or maybe a big revolution, not only a little revolution, if it works as it is foreseen within the project. The way the project aims to do that is by defining the standard, how to make this possible, how this interoperability can work and how it can be facilitated and done. And of course, there are a lot of issues and a lot of troubles involved, and one of them is the high-level security and privacy issues that need to be tackled and handled. This is a question that is currently and all the time being discussed. And in general, this is a highly ambitious initiative, and it is the first attempt to standardize student data transfer on a Europe-wide scale, which in turn could make a huge difference in terms of how data is managed on a digital level. The second thing is very much related to the first one, and it is about creating a network, an Erasmus Without Paper network that share the common ground and that share the data and have the possibility to make use of all the systems that are available. And the idea is not to create a brand new IT solution for all that fits all, which is also not possible, but to keep the data where it's stored, so in every university, at every institution, and make it accessible and simple to use, of course, in a very secure way. The important thing is that we move away from scanned documents and paper-based copies and have this student information system communication among them and between them to make use, as I mentioned before, of the data that is stored in one or another. This is roughly what it looks like. Don't ask me, please, if we have a question time, what it means there, but this is the model that has been created within the project, how to enable that. And yeah, it has been, yes, this is the outcome for now, and this is something that is going to be worked on in the future. The second stage of the project is going to start next year, and it's going to continue for 2 years. And even if it seems like, yeah, we have done the thing that was planned at the beginning, the important thing is to continue work and to finish things that have started at the beginning, and also to address several challenges that have occurred and that are out there in order to make this Erasmus Without Paper network to work and function throughout all European higher education area. And one of the first challenges, and actually one of the key challenges that the project aims to tackle, is related to the way information is managed currently at the higher education institutions in Europe. 36% and 20% in this graph, they represent universities that have in-house certain solutions for data management. Either those are developed in-house, student management systems that are developed in-house, or by commercial providers. And this is a portion or proportion or a number of universities that Erasmus Without Paper can cooperate very easily because they already have something to work with and connect. However, 42%, and it is a huge portion as well, of the higher education institutions that do not use any specific IT tools. So basically, in general, it might mean that they still use Excel files. And it's not that it's bad or not efficient, or we are questioning that. In some cases, it's also because they are simply exchanging maybe 20 students, and they don't really need a highly sophisticated IT solution for that. However, if we keep or ignore that part of the universities, the whole system is not going to function, because it's not possible then to cooperate within like the whole group. And therefore, it is highly important to also address that group and provide solutions also for them, so that they can be part of the overall Erasmus Without Paper network as well. And the way it's going to, one way, or the solutions that are out there that are currently that Erasmus Without Paper network and team is working on, is the first one is the hub, as we call it for now, and that means that there are many online sources, online tools that are created already. They are for free. In many cases, they are created by, or they are, yeah, they have been created within EU-funded project frameworks. And these are tools that are available and accessible for everyone. So this is the first group that, and the first solution that can be applied. The examples mentioned here are online learning agreement. This is a learning agreement that can be done online, and it's, again, any university, any institution can use that and connect to that. Agricons, you probably might also have heard this about the Great Turn version. And there are several others. And this is something that could create a basis, or some, at least the beginning of what can these universities connect to and start using. And this would not only enhance their impact and sustainability of those projects and those initiatives, but would also address the fragmentation, because this digital divide is a very important aspect of this process. The second thing is a launch of open source code repository. And this means that, and then I will also continue that when mentioning the Open Source University Alliance. This is related to the fact that there are ways how, or we intend to encourage universities to share the code and to share the information and the tools that are already there and developed. And this is something that is completely voluntarily. This is something that should be a win-win approach and allow universities not to reinvent the wheels all the time and develop the rather similar tools and solutions in-house in several higher education institutions, but benefit from the ones that are already developed, maybe improve even more or update or and make usage of that. So that there is a common university alliance that can share this information. At the moment, the alliance was launched at the very end of the previous Erasmus Without Paper scheme in a couple of months ago. These are the university networks that have already joined, and basically this already means that we are reaching around 200 universities that could be potentially involved in this part. And the second challenge was already kind of, I can see that European University Foundation is cooperating extremely well with the Groningen Declaration. And yes, the digital change is cultural change, and we completely agree with that. And developing technology is easy, however, making the most of it is not so easy and not always possible. And therefore, again, the emphasis is going to be in ensuring that, first of all, there is something to rely on, and to make available so that universities can take and use, as well as create a support system that allows to this help desk idea, and yes, to make a support mechanism. The ones who have motivation to join, they also have support from our side to do that. Yes, I'm not going to go into detail about that because it was already mentioned before. And this is briefly to mention the weight and the areas that both initiatives are covering. If in the first case, engineering and the practical part was the core, in the second one, it's also there, but at this point, the outreach is of a huge importance, because the Erasmus Without Paper network can actually start working if there is a critical mass and if the university is involved, and therefore this outreach part is in a great focus at the moment. Yes, as mentioned before, the main point and the main focus area for now is to really complete the work that has started during the first part, to launch the Erasmus Without Paper network in December, which is a very ambitious goal as well for us, because it's within more or less a year, and connect at least or more or less 700 universities. That's a target and the aim that is currently defined. And as well, create the open source solutions through this and repository of technical solutions through this university alliance that is in place at the moment, and allows to share voluntarily the resources that are available. I already mentioned the launch of a hub that allows to share and put together under one umbrella the projects that have been implemented already, and that allow to move on in terms of certain areas that can be covered by each of the projects. And yes, also to do it worldwide. In order to summarize the overall situation at the moment, the defining standard for this data exchange is something that took place the previous 2 years, and it is really the heart and the center of the project. The current and upcoming and forthcoming parts are related to Open Source University Alliance that is at the moment launched, and where the universities can join and share the data. and support system for higher education institutions that is going to be during the second half of the Erasmus Without Paper second phase. Then, on the basis of that, launching the network on 2018 and looking onwards is something that is another very inspiring idea on one hand, and at the same time extremely challenging. And there are several things that are happening now. There have been several conversations and discussions with the European Commission about the potential of linking it together with a mobility tool. Again, if the universities are working with that, you are aware what the mobility tool is related with, and Erasmus app, the app that was launched for the anniversary of Erasmus, the 37th anniversary. And again, as all these three infrastructures, they do have a lot of data involved there. The perfect scenario would be, of course, that the data is shared and that is not going to repeatedly inserted, and that they are communicating again through this network. Should there be interest to join, it is open and very welcoming at the moment. There are several ways to get involved. They are outlined here. Should there be any questions, I'm available here as well. And yeah, any way that you would be interested to join, or your institution and willing to contribute from the things that are developed and are out there is very welcome. And please do contact us and to join and to see how to digitalize student data further on. This is a short overview of the project partners, the previous ones. There are several that have joined during the second phase. And yes, contact information. I have put mine, but also the colleague who is working and coordinating the project more is also there. So contact information is available for you to as well to get in touch. Yes, thank you very much. If there is any question time, it's...
Paldies. Nu, ļoti precīzējam laikā. Paldies, Līgai.
Thank you. We are running very well in accordance with the agenda. Are there any questions? So who's first? Which row will be first to ask questions? Baibaramiņa has a question. Yes, I have seen in our HEIs how Erasmus coordinators work, and I am amazed how they work with these documents. All of these documents have seals, and some of them have even 2 seals, and this is the reality of today. So this is the question to our Erasmus agencies. How much do we need these papers? Maybe we can transition to another way. So my question is, which HEIs participate in this EWP project, and has there ever been any interest on the part of the Latvian HEIs to participate in this project? Please use the microphone. These are partner universities that take part in the introduction and shaping of the project. They take part in discussions and they shape the project itself. Now, as for the Latvian HEIs, I will unfortunately not be able to answer precisely since I do not coordinate this project. I do not possess this information. I can clarify that, and I could definitely get back to you during the course of today.
I was having a lot of fun because I've been involved. You see the old logo of my university there, and you would ask why the University of Malaga is just an associate partner. I've been involved in this in the start, and one of the reasons is because the European Commission requested us to reduce the size of the consortium for Erasmus Without Paper. It was absolutely huge. We had, the good thing is that we had all the university associations. As you see, we had Compostela Group, we had Unica, there should be, I'm missing another one. You see the Santander Group. So all the groups were on board. And we had plenty universities. You see Essex, University of Malaga, Aveiro, and then Warsaw, Umeå, Porto. There were so many people involved. We have any level that was required in Erasmus without paper. And then came the commission said, you are too many. You have to reduce the size of the consortium. So we had to reduce the consortium and ask the universities to participate through their group. So that's the main reason we didn't have many universities in there. But Erasmus without paper too, it's a consortium, but it's open to anyone to participate. You will get no money. But if you are interested, many of the tools are there. So if you want to participate, just raise your hand, contact Joao, who's coordinating, or she or me or any of the logos you see, and say, I want to be involved. So, and if you are using one of the commercial tools like the SOP or Sigma or QS solution, you are already in, because they are connected to the network. Okay?
Paldies. Līga saprot.
Thank you. Liga, the information that you mentioned, that 56 universities are ready to take part because they have corresponding solutions. Well, you don't know what the situation in Latvia is. What is the average temperature in the hospital for Latvian universities, so to speak? If I looked up the survey, I could see the data for Latvia, but we analyzed it within the context of Europe, so it's a little bit more difficult for me to comment about Latvia specifically. Yes, this indeed is more dependent on the side of a university. At the moment, when we have small HEIs, then at this moment it becomes natural for them to be in the second group with these Excel files and so on. Maybe my answer is not very accurate percentage-wise, then I would say that the large universities are the ones that could be ready. I think we have representatives from large universities here. Maybe somebody can comment, or they know what the situation is as to their readiness. I see that the Riga Technical University is nodding their head and saying yes. So Riga Technical University representative will give a presentation shortly, and they will provide you with their readiness in this regard. I don't know if you can answer this question. What is the actual situation within these projects? If an HEI participates in a project and they exchange information digitally and transfer data, but do they still need to print out the documents, seal them, and put them away in the shelf? Does this create a double burden? Yes, a very good question. Thank you. This project at this moment is in a more or less preparatory phase. It will kick off in 2018 at the moment when the EWP is launched. And at the moment, it is more about cooperation in the technical area and preparation. I will answer from the perspective of a smaller scale, the online learning agreements. This is the system that the EUF has set up, and this is one part of the Erasmus project. And this is one phase that is being digitalized. In other words, all learning agreements and I can explain this from the perspective of the university I work at in Spain. Actually, the digital environment at the university itself was launched within 1 year, 1 semester. But this largely depends on the university's management and the partnership university. Because if it is decided that they are ready to organize their mobilities this way and it is accepted, then it works. The other questions, and the more complicated part of the question, is that a university alone decides to do it online and digitally, then it is very important for the others or any other HEI that is a cooperation to do this too, because the system collapses as soon as one of the partnership institutions doesn't do this. And everything that is involved in the EWP is aimed at covering universities to the maximum extent and to make sure that none of the universities is left behind and that they can't become engaged or meet some challenges. So yes, the challenge is there. But as to the speed within one institution, as to how quickly it can take place, it can take place very quickly within the scope of 1 year, which was a wonderful example at our university. Thank you.
We move on. Thank you, Liga. And probably you will have questions later. The next speaker is Mats Lindstedt. He is a guest from Finland, project manager CSC project, and the topic supporting student mobility with MREX.
Thank you. Mats Lindstedt from CSC in Finland, and I guess nobody here knows what CSC is, so very briefly, CSC is a company or agency under the Ministry of Education and Culture, so a publicly funded non-profit company supporting higher education and research in Finland on a national level. We have the supercomputers, we do interoperability things and things like that. But I'm here to talk about the MREX network and also the project manager for that. Okay, so first some background. MREX started as a EU co-funded project, a 3-year project, 2015 to 17, so we are almost finishing. Policy experimentation, ministry-led initiatives. In Finland, it was the Ministry of Education and Culture who's the owner of the initiative. We ran a field trial to see if we can increase student mobility by electronic transfer of achievement records. Partners were from the Nordic countries, so Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and have a little bit bigger reach. We took our Italian friends into the project, and then depending on or because of how the financial instrument was set up, we needed an independent evaluation body, so that was Poland then included. We have actually just finished the field trial, 400 plus students, so exchange students from the Nord Plus program, Erasmus program, who went abroad, came back, transferred their real data using the MREX, and we asked them for their opinion. So that's how the MREX network started. But instead of me talking, I will try to show a video. How do I start it? Okay, I started. So this is a screen clipping from a demo system. As unfortunately, I don't want to show real people's data, so it's demo. It's a Norwegian student who's been in Finland, come back to Norway, is in the FS system, student web in Norway, so her normal student portal, looking at her own data. This is her records in Norway. And down here is, do you want to import results from somewhere else? Well, yes, I've been in Finland. Okay, so where have you been? Select Finland, and we'll go there. And suddenly the session is transferred to Finland. By the way, this is in Finnish then, but you can change to English also if you don't speak Finnish. You need to log in with your Finnish credentials to say, who are you? Well, I call myself Kaisa in Finland, so let's use that name. This is the Finnish Federation of Authentication Services. So log in, I'm shown, well, these are the data you have in Finland, in the Finnish system. 3 courses, names with, in Finnish, some data on dates, credits, grades. And I, as a student, said, okay, well, I want to have these 2 transferred back to Norway. So select them, you can check them, confirm selection. And I'm a little bit slow. And now I'm back to Norway, and you see, okay, this is what you're importing. Is that what you wanted? Yeah, I want this. So part of the field trial, we had a short survey at the end of the transfer, which now comes up where we ask the student, okay, you just use the system, please. Did you like it? Was it fast? So forth. But this is basically what it looks like from a student perspective. So, a couple of things. First of all, it's very much student-driven. Student asking, give me my information. This is what Victorine also talked about. Student owns the data, they can ask for it. We don't need any agreements between the different countries, different universities. Second is, in this case, it's very much integrated into the recognition process at the University of Oslo. So you go to your student portal, you see your results, there's a recognition process or application, maybe you start, and then you ask for the data. So the student might not even know that they're using MREX. They're just filling in an application to do it. And it's very, very fast. It takes like a minute. You get your data, you get it in electronic format, you get it in structured format. So depending on the home university, if they can use the structured format, it goes directly into the database. It's secure. You can trust that the student has not been able to tamper with anything. They're not be able to raise their grades. It comes directly from the other side. Yeah. Then, as it goes from one system to another, it really doesn't give a copy to the student, so we added a PDF copy alongside it. It basically looks like a transcript or record. So this is what the student could use for his own purposes or print it if he wants to. But then we found out the field trial, well, actually, many universities are not yet ready to read the XML, because that means they need to integrate into their system, maybe do some coding to get that to work. So, well, you can start trying it out with just sending a secure PDF. Still works in the same way. Student logs in, get the data. It's securely sent from the system directly into the university, so the university can trust it in the same way. They know that it's not made by the student. The student has not been able to tamper with. So, for example, in Finland, we had a few universities who wanted to participate in the field trial, and they used the PDF. So they get it on their screen, the PDF. Well, they still now have to type in the information to their own system, but they don't have to wait 6 months to get it on paper from the other country. So a couple of comments from students who used MREX. There were more, but this is kind of a good overview, I think. First of all, the students likes the system. Worked well, and no trouble, really fast, great, let's do this. Couple of issues, one down here, well, that's a technical issue that at the moment we don't have a solution to identify a person uniquely in different countries. So if you go as an exchange student in another country, you're basically giving a new identity in that country with the password, username, whatever in that system. In MREX, we do it so that we match name and birthday. If that are matching good enough, you can send the data. If there's a mismatch, we make a flag to the university that, hey, please do a manual check. Is this really the same person? Because, as you know, names can be misspelled. Maybe you got married in between or something happened. But that's something that shows up in the system. Also means you have to authenticate twice in your home portal and then when you go to another country. EID in Europe may help with this, we're hoping. And another thing that shows up is the quality of the data, because we can only send what's there in the system. And if there are courses missing, in Finland we had a problem with the name of the course was missing from the university system. So yeah, they got the detail, but they didn't show really what it was. That will show up when the student gets access to the data in itself. If you print it on paper, the administrator can fix small glitches before they print it, but if you get direct access, you will show the quality of the data you have. And then this is something special for administrators, a student comment. Everything worked perfectly, and as a student I liked it, but I have a doubt about acceptance from administrative perspective at my home university. So as a student, I'm happy to use electronics service. I share my data freely. I do it also on Facebook and everything. But my university, are they ready to get rid of paper? Are they happy to have electronic format? And yeah, I think that's the culture change we're talking about. Not the students. They don't need a change. They actually think that this is already there. If you tell them to have to do something on paper, they will be a little bit surprised. So that was the field trial. The project is ending, and MREX is continuing as a user group format. So I think that's something to be very proud of. Not all EU projects continue after they're finished, but we are. So all existing countries in the field trial are continuing in the MREX user group, meaning that all the implemented solutions are in production and will continue to be in production. Currently, we have systems in 7 countries up and running live, so you can exchange data. Doesn't necessarily mean that all data in the whole country, but some part at least, depending on the country. In Norway, they're very much advanced, so basically you can get everything. In Italy, the system is there, but still each university who has the system from Cineca needs to separately approve to take it into use, so that is a slow process. We have new countries joining. Well, Netherlands actually a few weeks ago joined with their contact point, so they are in the MREX network. We have some partners in Germany promised they are joining in next year or 2 years. We do a technical workshop with anybody who's interested. Actually, it takes 1 day to set up a prototype with MREX, so you can get data. It's quite easy. Victoriano mentioned my equals in New Zealand and Australia. We have talks with them also how to cooperate. As soon as they get their previous project finished, they will look at the MREX thing also, so they will hopefully join our network. There's another admission system in Australia that we're talking to. And then PESC is an organization in the US, and they have their standards, so we're looking at can we build converters between the standards to get that to work. So here's a map of our footprint today, meaning either in production or partners interested in looking at it. That's Croatia, right? Hopefully. They are actually looking at blockchain also. So how could they use the ELMOS standard, which is the standard for achievements, put that on a blockchain and sort of be interoperable with MREX. It's an interesting idea. They're using it in their, let's say, on a national level. So, but if it works, maybe it will spread. So they're open to looking at that, although we're not really a blockchain solution. One thing that I like to point out is we see MREX as a building block. It's a way of transferring achievement data records, so electronic transfer of records, but we don't really, let's say we don't really care what you do with the data, so you can do it for any purpose. It's like, please give me my data and send it to this place. Okay, we can help with that. In the field trial, we looked at Nord Plus, Erasmus Plus mobility periods, basically because they are fast enough. You go for 3 months, 6 months, you come back. So yes, within the project, we could get the data and see how it works. Another thing that come up from mobility is joint degrees. There seems to be an interest about that because there's a lot of people going back and forth, and you don't really need to want to send paper between the universities. Admission services is another big thing. Many of the newcomers are especially looking into admissions, so either for a bachelor's or a master's degree, especially for foreign students. If you apply, well, do you really need to send all the data? How do you verify that they're real data and so forth? If you could just get it with MREX into your admission system, makes it much more easier. In Norway, they have already implemented a recruitment solution, so I think it's a recruitment company that allows applicants to upload through MREX their student records, and then they can show it to the company to verify that they have the degree, they have the achievements they claim they have. So to support these use cases, we also need a little bit other types of achievement records. I mentioned ELMO standard a couple of times already. It's started as a Norwegian standard for describing achievement records. We now used it in MREX. It actually will be used in Erasmus with a paper also. And if you are looking at any type of solution to exchange achievement data, please at least have a look at ELMO, because it makes it much easier if we all start using the same standard. We will add second level records there, so high school. If you apply for a bachelor, you of course need to show what you did in high school. Well, we can support that. Informal, non-formal learning. And one interesting thing is a diploma supplement. There's been a study on the European level. We need to improve how we can share diploma supplements and how to do that electronically. Well, that could also be done by the ELMO standard. And then let's say here that we are kind of GDPR compliant. So it's a student that transfers his results to the place he wants to, as chosen by the student. So give me my data, send it to this place. That's the way we see things. This is just to show that there is a real need for electronic services. In Norway, they built on top of MREX a way for a person to securely share his achievements. I don't know the technical solution here, but I understand it works like you log in, you say that you want to share your results, and you get a secure web link that you then can share with an employer or whoever you want. And they log in with that link and can verify that, yes, you have that data you claim you have. They started this in last summer, I think, so a few months. Over 100,000 people who have studied in Norway, most of the Norwegians, I guess, have used it from these countries, basically all over the world. Quite a lot of African countries, all Europe, basically, Asian, South and North America. Few white spots, but not many. But within a few months, 100,000 people in a country with 5 million inhabitants, so that's quite big. So when we started with student mobility, there are a few hundred students going back and forth, but the real potential is actually to open it up to all citizens. And there are some issues there, of course. How do you access the data then later on? So, MREX works fine, it's great, but of course the end goal is a little bit bigger than that. And there's a lot of talk about automatic recognition. I think that's kind of what we're aiming at. Good thing is that's really a strong political push both for mobility and automatic recognition, both on a national level and both on EU level. EU is sponsoring a lot of projects in this area. What we have shown is that the free-flowing data is the easy part. We have MREX, for example, that can transfer and is transferring your data. We know how to do it. Actually, in the internet time, it's not really that difficult. If you can have the data, one of the issues, of course, that does the university or the national agency have access to the data in the system that they can easily extract and send it. But that can be done. We know how to do it. The difficult part then is what to do with the data. If you show it to an administrator, that's still fine. It's same as the paper. Instead of getting a paper, you get it on your screen. You can use your knowledge to deal with it. But if you want to automate processes, it means that you really, or the machine really needs to understand the data. You need to know that this field means this, and this goes here, and has to be understandable. In EU, we have the Bologna process, we have the ECTS guidelines, So basically, we should have everything, but we don't really follow all that, as you know. There are differences between countries. For example, one country, I know they want to have, or some countries want to have also failed courses on the transcript. Some countries like Finland don't publish that because a failed course is not a mark, so it's not there at all. Some countries might want to have the number of hours associated with the course. Some countries don't collect that information. So we need some discussion still on what is the minimum set of data, what are the standards that we should have in all countries to be able to facilitate automatic recognition or automatic processing of data. Then another thing is there are different grade scales, degree level, program levels in different countries. So how do you map those? There's no automatic tool for saying that a program in this country means a program like this. A bachelor is a bachelor is a bachelor, but when you, is it really? Especially if you're looking at, yeah, especially if you're looking at, let's say you want to prove that you did something 10 years ago when the system was different. So it's not really that easy. Another question is who to trust. In MREX at the moment it was very easy because we know each other, in the Nordic countries, we know the different systems, we know the actual people working on that. If you look at an EU level, it might still be doable. We can use the Erasmus codes to make sure that it's accredited university. If you start going on a global level, it becomes much more difficult. So how do you avoid degree mills? How do you know if a university is a real university? And even if the university is real, actually the faculty or the program under that might not be accredited. So that's an issue. MREX works on the assumption that if you're in the network giving out data, we trust you. So you don't need to check that. That also means we need quite strict rules who can join the network. So that's something we're still working on. One question I have here is who owns the data? Well, we very much feel that the student owns the data, but I know that in some countries it's more like, well, it's a university really who has the records, so university can decide. I guess that's a discussion that's still a little bit ongoing. And as I mentioned, how to access the data after graduation. We have built our solution on that. You use the university username, password that you have there, but after graduation your account is probably closed quite fast. In some countries there might be a national identity service that they can use to access that, but that's still something that needs to be built in. And the last thing, paper versus electronic signature and data. You know, it's a cultural change that's needed. Do we need a legal change or not? Some countries have told me, or people, some countries told me that yes, they really would want to join MREX, but unfortunately national law says that it has to be on paper. Well, is it really like that, or maybe you just think it's like that? But it's interesting. Could mention here that I think it was University of Bergen in Norway, since they now have this solution, they have decided they will not print any transcript records anymore. If you want your records from the university, they will give you a link. Please download it from here. Well, then you can print it if you like, but they will not print it anymore. So we will not get any of these nice stamps or flying dolphins or watermarks or whatever you have. And I think that's the way it goes. More and more universities, more and more countries will go towards that. And those who are a little bit behind, they will have just to accept, well, if you want data from this country, you will get it in electronic format. But it will take time, of course. Just to show you our website, mrex.eu, you can go there. There's kind of nice interviews here with students from Norway who've been on exchange. They are not paid, so they will sound like they are paid, but they're not. They were asked about, well, how do you feel about sending papers, waiting for papers, going abroad? What's the reaction? And then we showed MREX at the end, and it's quite interesting. We also have a how to join section with some technical details, case study from Poland, how they use it for internal mobility. So have a look if you're interested. And of course, you are feel free to join MREX. in as an associate partner if you want in future, just to see what's happening. And if there's anybody here who really wants to look at it, we can probably set up a technical workshop on that also. Just my last slide. Up there you see a commercial about our seminar in 2 weeks in Italy, so still room for a couple more people if you want to join. And then this is something I really like, that we pushing paper, copying paper, that's really what a lot of universities do, and that really makes sense. We are starting to have electronic solutions that could take care of that. Just need to put in the effort to implement them, to start doing them, and you will actually save a lot of time and a lot of money if you go from paper to electronic services. And I think that was my presentation. Thank you very much. If there are any questions.
Jautājumi?
Questions? From some higher educational institutions of Latvia, maybe somebody wants to join.
There was the way how to join, let's say in a level of university, of some university of Latvia, if they decide to join, what they have to do, what kind of criteria they have to implement.
Yeah, okay. First of all, there are two sides to MREX. One is receiving data, and the other one is sending data. So we talk about a student mobility plugin or a contact point. If you want to receive data, which could be a university or admission service, that's very easy. You don't really need anything. You just need to implement the client we have. There are some free code you can use, and then maybe you want to integrate into a portal. So anybody can do that, and we will help. We have everything on GitHub, the standard, the code, and we have experts can help. So basically just talk to us, hey, we want to try that. Maybe we have a meeting to show you how it works. You can join. You can receive data from those countries who have the contact point to their databases. If you want to send out data, so you have your own achievement records and you want to give them to other countries, then we just need to make sure that we sort of approve you, that all the existing partners say, well, yes, we know that you are a real university, real data, feel free to join. But otherwise, it's the same. You can look at the technical documentation, look at the code, see what you can reuse, and then you just need to implement it with the help of us. So if you want to join the network, that's how you do it. If you want to just follow it, then well, have a look at the website and see what's there. And then actually starting from January, we will have this MREX user group. So the project ends end of this year, switches over to the user group after the end of the year. There will probably be webinars and newsletter and things you can follow. But basically, contact us and we can set up a telco to see where are you today, what do you want to do, and then we just work from there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mats. Any more questions? No, then thank you. And paldies. Un mums ir vēl.
Before the lunch break, we have the last, but maybe the most important speaker. We are going to talk about the situation in Latvia and the Riga Technical Institution and how they organize their work in terms of student mobility. Uldis Sukovskis, Riga Technical University, study prorector from the Riga Technical University. Hello, my presentation will be in Latvian. I understand that half of you are thinking lunch already. Therefore, I will try to speak very quickly. Riga Technical University is a large university. We have large internal systems, and response to whether we're ready to digitalize more and connect more, yes, certainly we have many things already. And just like every university, we have the study management system, the study program register, and e-study environment for those who are studying. We have the resource planning system, we have the resources, the curricula catalog, and the thesis paper register, that surveying system. questionnaire system. We are giving up papers at the university, and the vast majority of all signatures and resolutions on papers we are trying to give up because we want to print papers less, and we use electrical signatures also in communication with state authorities. Maybe not to the level of 100%, but as much as we can possible. But science is not just students and studies, but we have certain science support system, various systems, a long list of them. I am the Director of Studies, and I have to know a lot of things about what is going on at the university. And I asked for the list of what systems we have at the university. And then I found out that, oh, we have this and that, and that's wonderful. And we have that anti-plagiarism system and the partner institution register. I don't know many things about the incoming exchange and outgoing exchanges, but they work electronically. And we also have the internal integration system, and they are integrated at the in-house level. In the study area, everything is integrated. The HR system, the human resources management system, the progress system, student records, and mobility, and they are interoperable. We have the resource system, and every student can open up the portal, and they can work with their study data, and they can apply for new programs, and they see their financial data, and the libraries, the books that they have borrowed from the library, and so on. And certainly every higher educational institution has more or less developed internal systems. They very well support various separate processes, and there are sometimes more or less integrated systems. And thank you for the reminder to the first speaker who talked about the human factor. They have very good systems. They support systems, and I remember this the situation. We introduced that when professors accept exams and they have results, and then grades for local students and foreign students, and they had the opportunity to enter these results from their homes or from wherever. This was quite a few years ago. And when we introduced this, then I had a very angry professor who called me and said, "So what, am I the record keeper now? I will have to work myself electronically with some kind of a system now? It used to be so simple. I used to put this down on a piece of paper, I submitted it, and so on." He was very angry, and I explained to him that life moves on. And then a year later, the same professor, more angry, and a more angry version of him, called me again and said, "Listen, what's going on? It's been 15 minutes, and I can't enter data into the system because the system has hung up. It has halted. There's some kind of a technical mistake." And I was so happy that I said, "Thank you. You made me very happy with your call. You know, this is the human factor. It's great. Now he can't live without the system anymore." But what is more difficult is to exchange information between the universities, between government authorities, and this was mentioned already before. Because certainly we can scan documents, or even we can sign them and electronically. We can exchange them, but it is important to interlink the systems at the database levels and to standardize, to align fields and so on. And in this mobility and student mobility area, even if this is done, then still there are several cases that prove that the human factor is of great essence, because in some countries, bachelor means a lot of things. And even if it is a bachelor degree, as we know, in our situation with the architectural program, that it's in accordance with the EU directive. It says that there is a architecture architect's qualification, and then they go to Denmark and they say that no, you can't study there because the qualification is completely different and the architects are completely different. But formally, it's fine. You have the HEI, you have the bachelor's degree, but it does not correspond to the same level. So at the base of it, you have different problems, and perfect data exchange does not solve this because there will always be specific cases. So what we are doing right now is I am the prorector. I sign thousands of documents every year, the diploma supplements or appendixes. The rector signs diplomas, but there's twice as few of them. But these come in two copies in two languages, and there's quite a few of them. So at one point, I got sick of this, and starting from this study year, we are going to begin because we will have the first the first case in this winter semester when we are going to issue them electronically, signed with the secure e-signature in accordance with the Latvian and the Latvian legislation and EU directive on electronic documents. So they will be legally binding. They will also have electronic identifiers in order for them to be able to be recognized electronically. So certainly we are generating these appendixes to diplomas automatically, obtaining information from systems, certainly verifying. This also entails a human factor. You can't really rely on full and complete automatization. The data is grouped then for electronic signing. Then they come in at my computer for electronic signing. Then I take my chip card and I sign them in portions, in batches, several of them. And then these appendixes are available for students, and when they authenticate themselves in the system, they can receive them and use these electronically signed diploma appendixes. Not diplomas yet, but maybe in a year or two, the diplomas will be signed electronically too. You see, diplomas are so beautiful. They are executed beautifully, and it's kind of sad to lose this beautiful piece of paper. And then you have these things that you have to remember. And I don't know how we will be able to communicate this to the students and everybody else, is that if you print this document on a hard copy, because formally it looks exactly the same as a hard copy, but if you print this in hard copy, then it will no longer be a legally binding document. So whatever you have on your flashcard or elsewhere, that is the original. The good thing is that you no longer need to issue copies. You can come up with 1,000 copies electronically, and they will all be legally binding.
But the question is how to revoke it. For example, there has been a mistake, a wrong number of credit points, and the person has made a copy and already sent it perhaps in 20 copies and submitted it. So the question is how to revoke this electronic document. Perhaps someone can prompt me. It's not that easy. So here you see such details which are quite difficult and also legally problematic. Of course, we can revoke a paper document, and then this paper document is brought back, and it's very easy to revoke it, to remove it, to destroy it, and to issue a new document. Of course, also in this case, we are going to issue a new document, but this one, the former one, the wrong one, is going to stay. Perhaps already 1,000 copies in the world. I don't know whether you have a solution to this or not. It is a problem, really, because we issue thousands of such diploma supplements, and you sometimes get some errors. The next point, we are introducing Europass. It's possible to generate CV electronically, and these CV are filled in from different our internal systems, the personal data, the data on residents, and also publications, and so on. But later on, people go through their own CVs and they update and correct them. And now I'm talking about systems which are already externally oriented. We have electronic applying for studies. That's after the secondary school, young people come to enroll, and apparently since 2010, for many years, this system has been functional. 3 universities made this system. Now we have more, 11 institutions involved. Because this is why I mention it, because we are receiving data on secondary education automatically, because the competition for enrolling into university is based on the exam results, centralized exams. If there are any additional exams, these are also introduced into the system. We also look at the achievements when graduating from the secondary school and so on. And those who participate in the system, for them, this admission procedure is really simplified. Now the young person, the potential student, has to come once physically in body to apply for the institution. Perhaps we will do away with it, but I believe it's a good thing if they come. They at least know where the university is located, where he is going to study. However, basically, perhaps he could also go through distant learning and could never visit the university. But probably I won't live to experience this. I don't know whether this is good or bad. Perhaps I'm still old-fashioned. Well, but here you see we have also electronic applications. A student who wants to apply from the bachelor's level to master's level, again, he can apply electronically. All this is automated. At this point, we could also cooperate with other universities, and those who have graduated on the bachelor's level, we could get electronically all the data and save them this need to walk around and bringing all the documents. This could be a bit complicated because all universities have different systems, different formats. So we have to invest work in this. Whether it is worth it at this point, well, we don't know. Probably it would be worth it if this system were using some international format, internationally acceptable format. But this was just an example. And then science. This is, well, universities are involved in science and research. So the question is how to share information on this. We have portal, Use Science. We provide information on research services. It's a register also of equipment, and it is available internationally. So universities and other institutions can enter information on their labs, on their equipment, also software that they have, and use it, and also apply for using. So because sometimes this equipment tends to be very expensive, so this is a possibility to use it, to share the use of it. We are also putting into the system some financial data, also calculation of the cost of services. Currently, this system, which was launched 2 years ago, we have 24 institutions involved. Here you see the countries which are involved, and this is growing. We have more than 1,500 equipment and facilities registered, and we see that universities are using this system. Thank you. I really tried to keep to the agenda. You did it wonderfully. Well, we see what's going on at the Riga Technical University. Any questions? We saw some competitors. They are not competitors, we are friends. So question, perhaps some provocative questions. I really liked your comment, what you said about that angry professor who cannot live with the system, and later on they cannot live without the system. Are you training those angry professors in special ways? Do you have some kind of special approach? Yes, we do. Actually, we have even some training courses and support service. And one system that we have is user support service. And the users can They can phone or they can enter the problematic issues in the portal. And we also offer training, especially those systems that we have in the e-study system. So this helps a bit. Thank you. Any other questions? Baiba? Thank you. It was really a very pleasant surprise to see that Latvia is currently moving to electronic diploma supplement. However, diploma supplement is an important element in diploma recognition. So I have the following question. What is going to happen with this electronic diploma supplement? It is in the system, but at the moment when you print it out, it's no longer legally valid. So someone wants to take a job in Latvia or somewhere else, or if this is a foreign student. So what's going to happen if he will print it out and go to your university and ask for a seal to be put on it? Well, actually, in the first season, we will double. We will have both electronically and also on paper, because this is the pilot stage. This is the initial stage. In our winter graduation, we are going to issue both. There's one detail. Actually, so these are two documents with equal legal force, but these are two different documents. So our lawyers will think hard about it. Indeed, he has to bring in flash a stick and submit this supplement, or send it electronically over email, because this electronically signed document is the only one with legal force. And probably there will be a necessity, and I assume that for example, in Cambridge, that have rich traditions, they might say, we want to have a beautiful document with stamps and seals. Then we will produce such a document, but these will be separate cases. We'll see how it goes, and we hope that the European Directive on electronic documents has been implemented in Europe, in the EU, and also on safe electronic signature, which has legal force. At least in the European Union, all countries should have a similar law, a law on electronic documents, which describes everything beautifully. I have really studied this law, and I'm teaching students about it. So we are moving to these documents. So let's see how it goes. Thank you. If we have no questions at this point, let's thank once again Pro-Rector of Riga Technical University. And now we have a coffee break.
Es domāju, mēs sāksim. Es tagad nevaru.
I think we can begin, and I can't really tell whether there's the same amount of people as during the first part of the conference. Well, regardless of the fact, let us continue with the conference, and that the conference will end with a panel discussion. And part of the people who are in front of you will take place in this panel discussion. Now, I would like to give the floor to Vera Skorobogatova, who is from the GLAV Expert Center. And now, the floor is yours, please.
Good day, labdien, добрый день, dear participants of a very important conference. And I want to share the information about some digitalization of education in Russian Federation. You can see our tasks at the concept of long-term socio-economic development of the Russian Federation to provide educational openness to external requirements, to improve the quality of education on the basis of information technologies, to expand the use of information technologies for the development of the new forms of education, and to ensure the accessibility to public services through information resources. I'm director of some institution which works under the Federal Service for Supervision and in Education and Science. And I think important to say that this service is responsible for organization of state final attestation, like centralization, some unified state exam you have the same centralization examination, licensing of higher education institution and accreditation of educational programs, and recognition on foreign education. And the body which I present is the GLAV Expert Center, and some special government decree, we responsible to be National Information Center according to Lisbon Recognition Convention. Two words about our activity. It's our workload, and for example, by 2016, we make nearly 18,000 applicants which come to our office for recognition of foreign education, and more than 60,000 consultations. So the workload to every day of our body is more than 200 consultations for each other, for person, for institution, for some employers, and and nearly 60 applicants. About federal system, we have some federal information system in the field of education. Why they name federal? Because this system are indicated in the federal law about education. The information system of the unified state examination, Federal Register of Apostiles, Federal Register of Education Documents and Qualifications, documents of training, Federal Register of Licensed Institution, and accredited educational programs. It's possible to use this system. They are open and to check interesting information. For what created these federal registers? The first of all, liquidation of fraudulent state-formed diploma traffics. I say that for the last 3 years, the federal state for supervision on education and science refused 800 institutions of license and accreditation. So the number of the higher education institution now in Russia, maybe 900 institutions. 3 years ago, it was 1,100. So it's very big task to grow the quality assurance of institutions and to maybe to to grow trust to educational institutions of Russia. Provision of authentic information regarding qualification for organizations and employers. Reducing the number of violation and corruption cases in educational organizations. And improvement of education quality by provision of authentic information for the general public. Now, you know this unified state exam. This system open only for higher education institution because the pupil after secondary education unified state examination results which give the rights to receive a school leaving certificate and to enroll to higher education institution simultaneously. A register of licensed institution and accredited programs is responsible for issuing license for educational activity and accreditation of educational programs, and diplomas of the state form. We have some state form of diploma can be issued only on the basis of accredited programs. Now this is the screen of this register. You know, the apostiles may be now, when we go to digitalization, we not so necessary to put apostyles. And I know that in Europe, the countries not required apostyles. But some countries in the East required apostyle, so we have the apostyle stamp and register, because it's possible to fake apostyle, and it's possible to check the apostyle register, is it real or not. The presence of the apostyle stamp on the diploma in question automatically confirms its authenticity, and no additional verification should be required. And maybe most important, the Federal Register of Educational Documents and Qualification. Victoriana said about National Educational Data Depositories. This is National Educational Data Depositories of Russia. So maybe it is analog of some digital document, because if this document, the diploma of higher education institution, put to this register, this is proof this is a real document, a real educational and real learning outcomes. But the biggest problem of this register that it was created in 2012, and now it has the diplomas from 2010. We have some plans to put the diplomas from the 2000 and maybe earlier. But now we have only some fresh diplomas, and it's possible to check in the federal, this federal register. The information of credentials should be lodged within 60 days after diploma. Now we prepare some proposals to cut this time, not 60 days, because sometimes it's big period to enroll to other institutions, to other countries, maybe to 20 or 10 days. Its proposal now is researched by Ministry of Education. And the system is open for the general public. I know, for example, that the Center of Estonia Archimedes use this register, and sometimes send information that we can't find diploma and we phone to institution. Data is provided at no charge on the basis of the following criteria: level of education, name of organization, you can see name of the organization, holder's last name, diploma number, date of issue. This is a screen of this register, and it's very effective tool for verification and for recognition, and really is digital, no, not digital, but digital analog. It's possible to say analog of this diploma. Just a minute. They ask, do you want to send more information? No. No. Oh, sorry. Mm-hmm. But you want to start where you want, yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. The advantage of this federal system is time saving, reliability, openness, and relevance. In our work, we use our internal information system for recognition of education and to provide the information to students, to some our partners information centers, and we have, oh sorry, there's some information not is translating, and we have three systems. Our web portal of our center. I will show. It's publicate some reference information about the procedure of recognition, of legalization, of recognition, not only diplomas and qualification recognition of science degree and science, ученое звание, it would science degree, and all information related of procedure of recognition. The second is our internal system for our credential evaluators, and it's automatization of the procedure of public service in recognition, and our some scientific system which we collect all information about system of education of countries and the samples of diploma and others for our working. For example, this system recognition database, it provides the system and it determines and the appropriate level of foreign education to the level of education in Russia. And we have the description of education system, the samples of documents, and the translated laws of the countries. For example, the law about education in Latvia, in Estonia, more than the 100 countries. And now this system, according to some agreement, use the academic center of Bologna process and mobility of Kazakhstan and Finland, center of Finland, which is responsible for recognition. The publication and storage of this methodical and regulatory information on the recognition of foreign education and qualification. This is recognition database. The information of education system of foreign countries. For example, this the example about Ukraine. Law and on educations. And the forms and samples of foreign education, on education and qualification. This is the second system. It's only for our work because all applications which our applicants send to us by online, by email, this system create electronic dossier application, uploading of the scanned copies of documents, submitted for recognition, recommendation and conclusions of the credential evaluator expert, sending the request to international education organizations and other authorities, accounting precedents, some complicated cases, linking the payments to the electronic dossier because this public service for recognition is not free, it's a public task, nearly 100 euro. Electronic resolution forming, certificate production and issuance, information of the electronic archive. From the January of the next year, it will be electronic certificate. So all our this service, public service for recognition, now we can say that it's all making in electronic format. And our credential evaluation has many tools for working, but I am like as the administrator can make some analyze in context of countries, in context for credential evaluators, in context of levels and others analyze which we need for recognition. These three systems are integrated, and it's possible to flow documents, management system, our recognition database, and our web portal. And so what about our web portal? This name is National Information Center gov.gov.ru, and posted materials, information on the procedure of recognition of foreign education and qualification in Russia, legislative acts on education and recognition issues, information on state education authorities, regulation of international laws, and we have special special fields about Bologna process, special fields about Lisbon Recognition Convention, with some with all decisions of Committee of Lisbon Recognition Convention, analytic materials and publication, information on Russian Federation education system, and registers, some links to register on accredited and licensed education organization in the Russian Federation. And I'm proud that it is some, I think, popular, in my opinion, because the web portal for 3 years, 15, 16, and 17, visited by more than 400,000 people and users from 176 countries. Now we have the 60 persons form for application online, and it's a consultation, and 35, but now more submitted applications online. So you can see, and it's possible to see the statistics in this web portal. Digitalization of educational documents and creation of national depositories is very important, and we have to say about the basis of fair recognition is the International Act, national legislation, Bologna tools and quality assurance, and for us it's the portal of National Information Center and federal registers. Because I'm responsible for recognition, so maybe I put the accent about recognition and information system and education recognition, the main tasks to open the access point to information system for necessary information, to explore possible improvements to recognition processes through the use of modern technologies, to use flexible, accessible, and transparent mechanisms in the process of recognition of foreign education, and to provide informative support of education institutions and experts. And digitalization is a way to trust. So trust is an open door for fair recognition, for automatic recognition. Today was mentioned about it. Thank you for attention.
Liels paldies, Verais.
Thank you, Vera Skorobogatova. And now questions from the audience, please. No questions at this point, really? No questions? Yes, we have a question.
Ir ļoti žēl, ka
It's really a pity that there's no one here from the Department of Higher Education. We are one of the few countries which doesn't have registration of diplomas, and you really have to check authenticity of diplomas.
higher education institutions, they should add all necessary information in this system. Do they have some problems to do it? Do you have some training for higher education institutions? And do they have some
Sanctions.
They are not doing it or not doing properly.
It's a good question, because we have some problem with institution,
You have to speak
and maybe
using
sometimes on our meetings in the federal service we discuss this institution which don't put in this time 60 days some documents, and I have information from our partner centers about this time, and now it's very strong.
Violations. violations.
Punish institutions and very strongly. So you are right, because our task, this lodging of this information will be automatically for institution, and so I think it's necessary to cut this time, 60 days, when the some institution the design or write diplomas, it's simultaneously will have to put the information to this register. It is now it's some system which now is building, so we have problem and punishes the institution.
It's a money. It's a question of money.
Not a question of money,
Okay.
because we have different tools about some stopping of licensing and not
Okay.
it administrative tools, not money.
Okay. You're threatening them. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Varbūt vēl kādi jautājumi? Mums?
Any questions at this point? Perhaps higher education institutions who have used the system? Who is using the system? You said that someone from Latvia is also using the system. So are these other institutions of higher education, or are these employers who are using your system from Latvia? Who are the Latvian users? Or is it possible to find it out later if you...
Our system. I pass the question. I know the National Information Center. I know about
are using.
Estonia. I know about Austria, about Germany, because sometimes they send information. But it's maybe something okay in Latvia. So.
No, we are using your system.
Because this system, using of this system is not require the apostille. And I try to explain to our partners, don't require apostille, because we have the more hopeful system and more system for trust.
Paldies. Labi, paldies. Tā bija Krievijas pieredze, un tagad
That was the experience of Russia, and now our neighbors, Estonians, Gunnars Vahts, who is the head of the Estonian Academic Recognition Information Center, president of the Lisbon Recognition Convention Committee. The floor is yours.
Do you want this microphone or that?
I use this microphone. And, for next slide,
This is forward, this is back.
thank you. Adjust our equipment. So okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your invitation first for this wonderful meeting, conference here, and with the very important topic on 20th century, already second decade of 20th century. Well, I'm going to talk about recognition of digital documents, and I already like the title for this slideshow, because we can already start to discuss here whether we recognize documents or we are talking about the recognition of qualifications. Maybe both. About the Lisbon Recognition Convention, and with all subsidiary texts adopted to the convention talking about the recognition of qualifications. We are in the world of recognition of qualifications. That means skills, knowledge, competence, and however they are presented or confirmed, digitally or by paper or in other forms, orally maybe. We are talking about the recognition of qualifications. And it is an international term and international understanding. We are living in the recognition of qualifications, not on recognition of documents. But now we are going to the country at national level. There are certain rules, national legislation, how actually the qualification should be presented for higher education institutions, for employers, for recognition of the qualification. And then we meet some obstacles, some challenges, some possibilities also, that whether in the certain country actually the qualifications are recognized if they are presented on digital form. That means whether we recognize digital documents or data or other information, or we just like everything to see on paper. And in some countries, it varies country by country. In some countries, they're fine if all the qualifications are approved digitally. In some countries, they just and only ask original documents or certified copies. And in majority in the Europe today is the case that the competent recognition authorities are seeking for documents because it comes from the national legislation. But it was also asked how it is actually, and whether there is something in Lisbon Recognition Convention talking about the form, the presentation of the qualification papers or digitally, then I can say no, there is nothing in Lisbon Convention and subsidiary text how the qualifications should be presented for recognition or for assessment. But there are some important and quite large part of attention paid for verification of the qualifications. That there is one subsidiary text what was revised already in 2010. It's a revised recommendation on criteria and procedures for the assessment of foreign qualifications. And it states very clearly that verification is very important. What was the way it was presented, digitally or on paper, but verification is very important, and it's a big part of assessment of foreign qualification. And it states, in view of the occurrence of falsified documents, verification of the authenticity is important. Whether they have been issued, we have to check whether they are issued by the institution, what is written on the document, and to the person indicated on the document, and whether the document is really true, or it's altered, or it's a forged. And what is also mentioned in this text, subsidiary text from 2010, then of course the competent recognition authorities, higher education institutions, employers, information centers, Ministry of Education, who made the decisions on recognition, that when the certified copies of documents will be sufficient in most cases, we understand, but the authorities may require originals also. Well, in many cases, of course, it is needed, particularly if the qualifications certified by the documents by third countries outside of the European region. We're talking from Asia, from Africa, from Latin America. Then, of course, as we know, are many fake documents, and maybe the copy is not enough. We have to see all the security features, watermarks, holograms, microtext, whatever, so that it's only appears on when we receive original documents. It is about the documents. Then, again, one more paragraph talking about the importance of verifications, that, yes, you may ask originals, you may ask certified copies, but please don't go crazy. And in some countries, they ask that they are original documents, they are apostilles, they are verified, they are legalized by the embassy. So then not only the diploma, but also all transcripts, all other diploma supplements, and all other annexes included, enclosed to diploma. That it is the situation what is not a very good practice anymore in modern life, when we are using many communication tools, and we can contact directly the awarding institution or our partner institution abroad, or we are using databases like Russian Federation, the diploma bases. We can contact here, and please don't go crazy and ask so much and so many documents. Well, it was about the Lisbon Convention as subsidiary text. That's it. No more about the documents, and how the qualifications should be presented. But I am talking now about the experience, what is the actual situation today for credential evaluators and recognition authorities in the European regions, and how to use maybe, and what is in practice actually concerning the digital documents, digital databases, and digital applications. There are two different things. One is using digital databases by competent authorities, and the second, what is totally different, is receiving digital applications, what is very common in universities in the European region, in many countries. Using digital databases, they are very fine, but very few countries only have national legal databases of graduates with full data, what is full data relevant for recognition offices, that you have all information, not only that the person is graduated, that you have the long list of graduates, but that's it, it's not enough. So that there are very few countries where are actually the national databases of graduates or examinations with full data. And or where is the access to digital transcript or results of examination. If such exists, it's very fine and trustworthy. And when in country there is no very strict national regulation to present paper documents, that works, that's fine. The second type of digital databases are provided by educational awarding institutions, and we say them institutional databases. And these institutional databases usually only including a list of graduates, no other data. They are also fine, but in addition, though, educational document that you can check that really a person was graduated in the school in this year. They are fine, but not fully trustworthy, always, because, as we know, in some countries, by some persons, they are establishing fake databases, and fake databases exist. We have experience already with fake databases of graduates from Bangladesh, from Nigerian higher education institutions, also from India, as you see, coming from third countries. And in the modern Europe, we have more than 50% applicants coming from third countries today. And there are also fake verification sites. Sometimes you have on diploma at the bottom that you can verify this diploma going to this site. But of course, this site is fake because the documents are already forged. And then by those who forge documents, they also create a website where actually you are going to verify with good hope. So digital databases are most useful tools in assessment of foreign qualification if the database includes as much information as possible about the examinations and graduation, and of course when they are coming from official sources. The second type of non-documented presentation of qualifications and data of diplomas and other and learning outcomes. There are three options. What I had in my memory, one-line applications, what is a very common today by universities, then centralized e-applications, like it is used, for example, in Estonia. We have Dream Apply. That means that it's not established by one university, but all Estonian higher education institutions, and applicants abroad upload all the application and also the documents to this centralized system. And documents sent by email, whether to accept them or not. 1 and 2, online applications and centralized applications are, of course, very fast way if they are coming from applicants and candidates from third countries, from other continents. Of course, it is difficult, of course, that they are going to country or sending by mail original documents or certified copies. Of course, it's a fast and well-organized application system in admission at higher education institutions, and most of higher education institutions are using online application forms together with uploaded documents, or there are centralized e-applications. Short admission period, that's the reason why it is used, and it's very easy and fast submission of applications. And we understand international candidates resist abroad in time of application, and it's physically impossible to be in the admission office or to send by email what may take maybe months or even more from third countries. But I have to mention here that in the first, in my previous using digital databases are in most cases the never paper documents issued or upon request only. But here, when we have online applications, centralized e-application, initially actually the paper document is issued and then it is uploaded and presented to the competent authority, university or employer on electronic form. So that this is also a different between the understanding on the system. Secondly, of course, all submitted documents will be copies, then regular copies uploaded by an applicant themselves and not official documents in many countries, like in Estonia. If the document is already uploaded, it means that made a copy and we receive a copy, not original, not official certified copy. That means it's unofficial document in the Estonian system. And the same in many countries. Higher education institutions may accept those copies according to their internal rules, unless there is any national requirement. Like in Estonia, the universities may do this in the first stage. But when already the students are approved as good candidates, admitted, then they have to present originals because according to the Estonian legislation, photocopies uploaded are not official documents. But you can already adjust the results, whether the candidate is good or not. And then, of course, in case of autonomy of higher education institutions, then, of course, it's up to them if they accept photocopies, but the responsibility lies with the higher education institutions that documents are authentic. It was also mentioned in the morning session, digital signatures. Digitally signed, applications signed digitally mean actually that attached documents are uploaded by the applicant and are not considered as official and authentic documents. Even the email attachments are digitally signed, but this diploma is uploaded by the applicant. Even if it's digitally signed, it's not official document. It is a copy, and we usually cannot trust, we have to check it. Yes, digital documents considered official in case the e-documents, electronic documents sent directly by an awarding institution. Then yes, we can do it, because if it's signed, if it's some certain sort of channel or the system, the awarding institution sending it through the online system or in other way, we can accept it as an original and official document in certain countries, in Estonia, for example. And that's enough. We don't ask any that the applicant should present also original or other type of documents. And then, yes, competent recognition authorities are responsible to check authenticity. When the document is sent by email, online, uploaded another way, you know that it's very easy to modify everything, to write new name of institution, the new degree. Today there is many IT tools, like a Photoshop. And the Photoshop, if you have a nice picture of landscape, but no birds, you just add some birds on sky. Or if you don't need birds on sky, you just clone them out. So that the same is with any document you can do. We had many cases also in Estonia when, for example, was a change or altered the classification of a degree. The degree is awarded, the person is correct, but it was from India, that is a first-class bachelor degree. Then we started to check it, but it was sent through this Dream Apply system. Then we asked to check, to verify the qualification. Yes, degree is correct, but classification, this person had a third class honors degree, not first class. And actually with third class, the person is not eligible to a master program. So that's very easy, and we have cases. Yes, this is my last slide. I say on positive way, digital documents or data or other forms of relevant data could be considered official, and even yes, no any documents, and there is no system to issue documents if the documents data are from the national coordinated databases, that you have all information about the transcript, digital transcripts, digital examination results, etc. As we know, in the United States, many higher education institutions, not all, but quite many, higher education institutions are sending you a digital transcript, and we accept it because it's coming directly from the awarding institution. Or we accept, of course, some central, regional, national examination results where you can enter with some certain code and to receive all relevant data about the examination. Then it's fine, and there is no need any paper. If all such e-documents and data are available, paper documents actually will be not needed. Just in my opinion. Thank you so much.
Paldies.
Thank you. Are there any questions to the representative from Estonia? Yes or no? I would like to ask, you talked about the Estonian system. How well is it compatible or interoperable with what the colleague from Finland presented during the first part of the conference? They have completed a successful European project. Are you interlinked or interconnected in any way, and do you continue cooperating?
In Estonia, we have our national admission system. It is electronically fully. What is concerning the secondary education examinations, I think the same in Latvia, as I understand, the national central examinations at the end of secondary school, and the paper certificate never issued. They have a database where all higher education institutions can enter, and only higher education institutions where they select already students according to the results of examinations. This is one way, but only used in Estonian at national level, internally, domestically. If a person would like to continue studies, to go abroad, then of course the student can go to the examination center, Estonian National Examination Organizer, and asking a paper copy, because this electronic database is not accessible for institutions abroad, or even not to third parties in Estonia too. So that in synthesis, but if I'm talking about the Estonian higher education institutions and they initiatives to be in some networks like Groningen Declaration or some other international or regional some organizations, then unfortunately they are not active. I don't know the reason why they are not active today. Even in Estonia, of course, all this IT technology and all these things are easily available.
Paldies. Bet par to aktivitāti mēs droši vien parunāsim vēl divi.
I think we will discuss this activity during the panel discussion in a greater detail. Are there any other questions? I think that during the discussion, we will table the matter on why people do not wish to engage in the Groningen Declaration or in any other unions. But now I will give the floor to the next speaker, who is from Latvia. Nora Jansson Ratinika. She is currently representing the Riga Stradiņš University College, and she is the director of the Pedagogical Development Center. And she's going to talk about the CV digitalization at universities. Unfortunately, that cannot be heard what the speaker is saying. You need to use the microphone. As I mentioned, I represent the Riga Strategic University College, but regardless of the fact that I am currently representing the institution alone, I have not set up the CV database only by myself. I have the HR department with me, who are the possessors of this project, and in the digitalization area, we certainly cannot get by without the ICT, and we work together with our colleagues from the IT department as well. As for the CV database, I don't think, and its relation to the digitalization, I don't think that in the 21st century, in 2017, we are still talking about the digital revolution. I would say that we are living in the digital reality, and CV databases and setting up a digital CV database at a university is nothing very innovational. It's more like a must-have, and we have succeeded at completing it. And in our daily agenda, the pro-rector of the Riga Technical University mentioned it. But yes, we do have this digital shape of the CV database. But, the devil is in the details. And therefore, I would like to talk about the process and the route that we went through as a community, because up to now CVs lived in various formats, including hard copies, both at the HR department as well as in other structural units, up until the moment when we digitalized everything. So why? Why do we need them? It's a centralized, easy to access data. And I would like to add that it's not only the faculty's CVs that we're talking about, it's also all of the personnel, but mostly it is the academy personnel. But the need arises from the accreditation initiative of study programs. So we had to understand in which form we need to shape CVs. And so we're talking about the certain structure that I'm going to elaborate on in greater detail. This system enables to update and supplement information in a flexible manner in a very easy way. So we no longer need to maintain our CVs in hard copies. Why did we choose to use this Europass solution? It's a document for describing skills and qualifications in a structured and easy to understand way. I will not elaborate on this because I think everyone understands what this format is about, and we use it in various ways and cases. It is a format that is clearly understandable in Europe, so we no longer live in an isolated manner in our country. We live in a global community. And also, this is a requirement set forth in the Latvian laws and regulations. So it's the laws and regulations says that the faculty CV must exist in this format. So this is the framework.
Now about the content. Although this is an internationally approved and translated into Latvian, still we need some specific things that our faculty members need. We cannot be directly compared to bank employees or so on. We have certain specifics. Well, so as usual, we set up a working group with representatives from faculty members and also support departments, IT department, to decide the way we call, what kind of titles we give to these sections, and in general how to adapt this European format to our context. And of course, what we provide is nothing too innovative. Of course, personal data. We are not providing personal identity number, only date of birth. Then Then also work experience, which we put in automatically from human resources management system. Information on education, skills department, language skills, also digital literacy, which is very relevant, especially in the context of digitization. But of course, the employees can decide whether to indicate this or not. So some fields are mandatory and some are not. And then we have very extensive additional section on additional information. That's continuous education and in general additional information. I actually represent and I'm the head of the Center for Educational Growth. We provide continuous education to our faculty members. So it would be just logical if all those things that we provide within our university would immediately appear also on these CVs. But until now, this still remains information that has to be manually entered. So this is still a question of time. We put in information on research directions. This information must be put in manually. Also patents. We are importing information from systems. Programs which have been developed and also who have managed some study programs. Study courses that have been prepared. And of course, we are unable to import all information about the past, but we are offering the relevant information, the current information. And so all the information about programs and courses, all this is entered. Also, students' research work, again, all our faculty members can decide what kind of information he wants to reflect in this CV. This can be done automatically, but also our faculty members can enter manually additional information. And if people have been working with us for a long time, this CV could be on hundreds of pages. But for us, it's important to have the last 6 years covered. Then the publications. Publications and Aleph database, how to synchronize it. We had lots of technical problems which have not been resolved 100%. But now this synchronization has reached a very usable level. And then different projects, participation in organization, awards, and so on. And we always provide for the possibility to add any additional information. But so this is the mandatory part and the mandatory structure. Now very briefly about stages in project implementation. As I said, we prepared this form, this model, CV, and everyone contributed. Everyone could contribute, so that that would make that usually makes the process easier. And then we prepared the database. That was a very technical matter. My IT colleagues would be better suited to tell about it. Then in the next stage, we had to decide on the management, on the workflow, on administration, on how the system deals with it. I, for example, a faculty member, I enter the portal, I start preparing my CV, and then we should know who is then verifying it and how do we publish this, and also adding the data that we have in our systems. That's very important, so that we don't have to enter all information manually. So we have all the automatically entered data and manually entered data. So it's very important to have this information presented correctly. And now, I don't know, I'm not calling this the stage 4, but we have defined again new fields of the CV that have to be reflected. And the faculty members have been informed that this information which they have entered into their CVs partly will be also made public. And now very briefly about this change management cycle. Of course, we know that people are all living in digital world. We know that digital data are a must. And it's not only our choice, but in general, implementation of change and change management, a change of culture, change of mentality, which was mentioned a couple of times already. It is not an easy thing. So about communication strategy, you always have to consider your communication strategy. We really wanted to have all academic community and administrative community to feel involved. So we had to take their ideas into account. We had to establish a management team. Because if everyone is involved in change, this can lead to chaos. So we had to create the vision. And again, the vision was not defined top-down, but we wanted to involve everyone in creating this vision for our CV database. And of course, reaching specific aims. To have some kind of micro-ambitions, we tried to break down this huge task, which we had to do in quite fast, because we were coming close to pilot accreditation, to which we had voluntarily applied. It was a very good catalyst. It really made us pull ourselves together and to finish all this within a short period of time. But we tried to cut it into smaller pieces. Of course, process monitoring, we were constantly trying to follow the process. We tried to understand where support was necessary and how everyone involved in the process felt. I'm not going to speak about each and every stage, but you see the timeline. We started in 2016 in February. That was the general project idea, needs identification, and we tried to understand the objectives that we had to implement. And actually, in September, we already completed the project, and our university is quite large, and the number of faculty members is also large. Actually, we started with healthcare study, and we still have 33 study programs in this. So you can imagine that the scale was quite impressive. The question to which Mr. Zukolskis already answered. Of course, we thought that training and support was needed. If we request our faculty members to do something, we just do not leave them on a deserted island and say, just cope with it, the deadline is this. But we also provide support. We offer support. And our center, our education Center for Educational Growth was involved. We offered special training. And so we were explaining in general what Europass document portfolio was, not only about the CV, and we also had the technical part of the training. Faculty members had the possibility to work with their data. They came to those CV workshops, and they were going step by step through those stages in the CV form, and we were explaining how to do that, and colleagues could work and using their own data. In terms of timeline, the training, we started training in May, and we concluded training at the end of June. In terms of numbers, that was an hour and a half. That was not a full day, and it was not a week, but it was quite intense training. 14 times, and in general, 196 but this had multiplying effects. These were like ambassadors of academic structural units. They came, they went through the training, they went back and told their colleagues, just it's not that bad, just get down to it and you will do it. Of course, if a person has never opened this CV, then people imagined all kinds of difficulties. But when they really got down to it and started doing it, they saw that it was feasible. Now the learning cycle. Why we began with this sort of philosophical side? We never said, this is the deadline, you have to do that, and that's it. And why? Why? Because that's because you have to do that. We explained that this would be very valuable in long term, that we would maintain the data. Of course, we created the database, but in long term, that would be very useful both for the institution and for the individual. We explained that this would be very convenient. And I already told that we were importing data, we were entering data manually. We also provided different guidelines. Some people like to listen, some people like to read. We also recorded video guideline. What made it all a bit complicated? We were in parallel to this, we were developing this CV database. So we had all this going in parallel, training, database, entering the data. And things keep changing. And actually, we are not the only ones who are maintaining this database, because we really depend upon the Greek side, because they are maintaining the European Europass database. And again, because of some technical things, we had to update the materials, but life is life. And so again, we took a step back and reflected on what had happened and what we should do. And so I promised to tell you about the technical process. So a faculty member is creating his CV in his portal of our faculty members. We have a very similar platform to Riga Technical University, where they see all the information about themselves. At that time, it was still the old version of the portal. But now it will all be transferred to the new portal, to the new platform. So this is data integration with a number of systems, human resources management, so we get all the personal data, work experience, also a language proficiency, because we're organizing language training courses. And they acquire a certain level of language proficiency. So we can reflect all this information that we have in our management systems already in their CV. Then we also have information system on students, and so we get all the information on study programs and study courses that they have developed and managed. And we also have this ALEP joint catalog. This is a catalog of publications and patents. And so in online system, they start preparing their CV. And when they start doing that, they have to answer the question which data they want to take from other databases. For example, half of the CV has already been prepared. So there's no need to renew the data if these data have been updated. So we just tick those items that we want to update at that moment.
We save them. Instead of online editor, instead we save them in the RSU CV database. So the data are kept in our CV database, and then we can operate with them. So actually, from this online editor, we send the data back to the faculty portal. So that this is the route that the data takes. The synchronization hasn't been easy. We were thinking about CV versioning, which is currently working more or less. What do I mean with versioning? Probably a natural working necessity for academic faculty is to submit their CVs for various projects. And the CVs that are submitted for various projects are probably not so large, or they need to be narrowed down for specific purposes. You might need to go on a business trip or for a conference, so I won't elaborate on the necessities. So we could have one version that is, say, necessary for accreditation when we represent our professional activity, let's say for the last 6 years. Then we could have the lifelong CV related to all of our professional career, or there could be CVs tailored for specific projects. And these versions could be endless. And then we could label these CVs so that in an understandable way the person in question could navigate through them, and so that we could also understand which is the most recent version, which version is reflected in the portal, and which CV contains the most recent data on the website. So this is what we're still working on, but technically our personnel can create several versions of their CVs. So the lessons learned. A short reflection on the challenges. We came up with separate slides for challenges and lesson learned. Now, as for the challenges, the adaptation of CV forms for the professional spectrum of academic personnel's or faculty's necessities. So we agreed on the minimum of sections that is mandatory, and we always add or offer these additional options. Facilitation of a motivation on the part of the academic faculty. This means investing time and work. So this included the summer when we were all on the vacations, especially the faculty was on vacations. It was a short period of time that we needed to fit in. But if we understand, and if they understand the need, and if they are provided with support, and if we're doing this for the sake of a bright future, then this process is not as difficult, and probably the resistance is not as large. A large, complex amount of data, both in Latvian and English, because these CVs need to be created in both languages, and you will understand, is not that easy. And also, the reflection of data, this process and quality, and the optimization and increasing of quality of this was quite a big challenge. We can select data, we can press a button, and then we see the results are not what we expected. Additionally, the person in question can identify this best. That when they come up to us and say, this is not about me, this is not my data. And then the compatibility of the technical solution with the RSU and Europass systems. And as for the lessons learned, or as for the benefits, is that we have an automated CV of the academic faculty. And as I mentioned, this storage of data is optimized and updated constantly. Then we also have centralized, synchronized topical data. We have good quality and management. And we have an optimized summarization process. So we're not chasing down each person or each department, but instead we have everything flowing into one process and one base. And this is a very good tool for differentiated analytics. So we can understand how many patents do we have, or where do we publish articles most, and so on and so forth. We have endless analysis options. Thank you. Thank you, Nora. for the detailed overview on how unified CVs took place at the Riga Students University College. We are slightly running behind the agenda, but we have an opportunity to ask questions to the speaker. Indeed, thank you. You will have the opportunity to participate in the panel discussion. I think we could open our panel discussion, which is intended to take place at the end of this event. Perhaps the most dynamic part of this event. So I would like to ask Baiba Ramiņa, who is the director of the Academic Information Center. Gunnar Vacht stays. Vitoriano Hiralt, please take your seat in the front. And now I would like to ask for the representative of students to come and take their seat at the panel. Katrīna Sprode from the Latvian Association of Students. How do you feel? Could we start an active discussion? Maybe we could start. Who would be the first one who dares to raise their hand? Maybe you will get the prize for asking the first question. Maybe the first question. After having listened to all of the speeches and presentations at this conference, the story is about the digital changes mean or entail cultural changes. So the question that I would like to ask is related to the Groningen Declaration countries, a unified digital diploma or certificate. No paper, no hard copies, no other thing. So where are we now? What phase are we now? How have we been digitally changed? How have we been culturally changed in Europe? What are the most substantial hurdles that hinder us from setting up such a system? Let me begin with Baiba Ramiņa. Thank you. I think that the first large problem is that we need to change our thinking. I also represent the older generation, and it is easiest for me to understand a document that has been printed out and it has a seal. So it is difficult for me to accept that it's hanging somewhere digitally and that it arrives by email and it's identical and I have to accept it. On the other hand, maybe everybody remembers the recognition of Soviet diplomas, the first phase when we received 500 applications a day. And then we witnessed that as Vitoriano said, that there were some diplomas that were almost chewed up by dogs, but there were people who wanted to get their master's degrees, and some diplomas had the tea and coffee stains, some diplomas had been lost, and so on. It wasn't so easy because it wasn't so simple to get the copies. And another hindrance or obstacle is legislation. I don't know about other countries, but in Latvia, in order to get your copy of your transcript, you have to turn to your school. If it no longer exists, then you have to turn to the municipal education board, and then you have to get the duplicate. You have to pay for an ad in the national newspaper of Latvia so that everyone knows that a duplicate was issued. And for higher educational institutions, you don't need this an announcement or ad in a newspaper. But for example, if you have graduated from the University of Aviation of Latvia, then I don't really know where you can get the duplicate anymore. So I see that a positive trend is that this information will be accessible. People will no longer have to run from one institution to another, and the work of the recognizers of diplomas will become easier. If we look at the Russian diplomas, as the situation it was five years ago, we had to write to Russia, we had to turn in writing to the HEIs. Instead, now we just have to go onto the website of the ministry. We have to just enter the name or the number, and then we get the result in a couple of minutes. So we save our nerves and money and time. So This must be our future. I look at it positively. How positively is Gunnar Wacht looking at it? I understand that while everything is reliable, be it hard copy or digital, it's fine. But to what extent should this be an aim in itself in terms of recognizing diplomas digitally?
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to also start with this point that we have to change our cultures, and it's also based on culture, and based on the culture, it also need to change national legislation. Even that we are, for example, in our office, we are ready to receive or just to collect data only on digital form. But on the other hand, yes, we have the national obstacles. Even we have access to a digital data somewhere. The transcript is electronic transcript, electronic diploma, and other data. We have to print it out. That means that the digital information goes a paper. And because there is also a good point there, because when we have somebody will appeal our statement or a recognition decision, or there is some other authorities ask how we went to this decision, then we have to prove, we have to present all this basic documentation, the basic data where it is received. And when we only look at the screen and then switched off the screen, we have no any confirmation how this information and where we received this information. That means that on the other hand, paper works always very well. The second point is that now I am thinking that what is more difficult to alter or to fake, whether a paper things or electronic things. It's more easy to modify information in electronic system. Yeah, yeah.
No, good.
Yes.
Discussion starts.
Very not today, but let's say after 10 years, it's more easy. There is we know there is a security system, there is cyber systems, all is. But one day, if there is a very clever people who are preparing and design these databases, there are next step, next stage, more clever people who can enter and to modify all data in this system. So that I'm not skeptical. I'm just talking about possibilities.
I'll tell you something.
Tell you later. So that and another option is, yes, we know that the paper is maybe also disappeared or something happened with the document. It's also one day we have blackout in our IT systems, and then we have no available early documents and any protected copies of this data. So that's I'm just arising things and things that for debate. Yeah.
Ļoti labi, Viktorija Ānel. Jā, es saprotu, ka
Yes, I understand that you have a response ready.
Blackout thing is something that worries a lot of us. I think I will start with us. Actually, Vint Cerf, who is one of the creators of the internet, which I happen to share a couple of lists with him, is very worried about a digital blackout. We have to find ways to preserve the digital data. That's absolutely of the most important thing that we have in front of us. And that's one of the things why the blockchains have been come into creation, because blockchain is distributed. So anytime you hear someone saying that a central database is the solution, kick the person out of the room. Any place you put a lot of useful information in one place, that's a recipe for trouble. Because it becomes what we call in the security space, it becomes a huge attack surface. So you can launch attacks into that, and it gets you a big reward. Once you succeed, you own a lot of data that you can modify, that you can do things with it. So distribute the things. The more you distribute the things, the more copies you have, the more secure you are. So don't centralize anything. Distribute it. Throw it around. And then blackouts. Blackout, we have a blackout of paper. Have you heard about the problem with refugees? Do they have copies? Do they have paper? Do their institutions where the paper was stored still exist? Have you seen the television recently? How the cities have been turned into stones? Where's the paper there? If that information was in the cloud, was floating around the internet, they would have the information available.
That's good
It would be
discussion.
floating around. I agree with him that it's clever people, but fortunately, there's clever people on both sides. It's black hats, white hats, and gray hats.
Okay, that's right.
And technology is helping continuously. And faking paper, oh my. Have you thought about wonderful 3D printers? Do you know that they can really fake a hand moving? Think about that. Grab a piece of paper, grab a copy of your hand-printed signature, give it to a 3D printer that will lay a 1 millimeter of ink on top of a beautiful paper, faking your hand signature and the beautiful rubber stamps. Is that easy to fake? It's digitally faked on the
Or
real.
not? Yeah, it's a good question.
Boop. No paper.
Gunnar, you have an answer? Or?
No, I haven't, because
Okay.
it was not just my position.
Yep.
Yeah, I know, I know.
Just
You were
to give
pushing me.
different opportunities on space.
You were pushing me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Katrīnas proģi, ko saka studenti par šo? Cik tālu jūs šo?
But Katrīna, what's about students? What do students say about this? When you use or do not use the papers, do you feel limited in your possibilities of mobility? This is a matter of habit. Students are used currently having everything in paper format. There are some institutions that accept electronic applications, but nevertheless you have to have paper certified copies, certified still. But I believe that this is not convenient. The data should be transferred. But I believe that this generation now is in the process of change, and currently we are not satisfied with some things, but in 3 or 4 times we will see the new generation coming in. And they won't know the situation when you have a document in your hands or transcripts and you have to take this document somewhere. It's the same how to get faculty members working with those systems who have been for longer at the institution, but it's easier for the students. We have to move towards this. This will make mobility easier. Application process, like for example Erasmus+, which is now quite popular. But then we also have to look from the other side, not only Latvia, but also the hosting country, hosting institution, what they need. Do they need electronic document, or do they need a document with a real signature in a scanned form, perhaps? And what happens when you print out the electronically signed document, which was already previously discussed, whether it is legally binding in a printed form, and so on. So there are different reasons that we have to understand. I talked during the break to students from Ventspils University, and they said that they have heaps of paper to fill in paper form. However, talking about the obstacles or the reasons why it's so. For example, we see the banks, the banking sector, they have moved to digital banking. We don't know whether that was easy or not, but they have done this. We heard different arguments. We understand that European institutions of education are ministry-centered, and ministries have great power. But on the other hand, as we heard from Estonia, universities themselves are not that eager to cooperate. Well, let's talk about Europe. Why is it so? Why isn't the development at one speed? And what are those driving forces that we lack that would make universities to go faster with this? Baiba. It's really hard to say. I believe that currently the world is changing in general and it's moving towards digitization, and it's not a matter of one day. I think this is the first time we were discussing. Well, but let's not talk about the world. About Latvia, Academic Information Center, we have ministries, we have universities. What's the problem? We haven't got a diploma register. This could not be heard, the comment. Apparently, there is going to be a register this year. This is the speaker is a representative of a higher education institution. Yes, we are going to have it, but we have been discussing for so many years, and it's not happening fast. And also the habits. For example, when I went to Malaga to a discussion of Groningen declaration, I was expecting to have a heap of papers, to have the agenda, to have the instructions. I was sent mobile application and the barcode, and I just have to go everywhere and I must try to understand it. And I just had to master those technologies to understand to which room in which room I was expected for which discussion. Wasn't it like this, Victoriano? So we are in this time of change. We just have to accept these technologies, but we haven't had discussion in Latvia. I really agree to you. Actually, that doesn't happen so. I have probably forgotten my mobile phone at home, and I really feel very inconvenient, very strange today. I just really feel that I'm missing something for the whole day. But what's your opinion? What are the main obstacles? Why isn't this process as fast as we would like to, this movement towards digitization?
The obstacle is a tradition, and traditions in Europe. It's one thing. Even in Estonian universities, everything, all data about the results of examinations, about the graduation, is in the database of higher education institutions. But still they are issuing diplomas because it's an old tradition. It's a ceremony. That means the students are going to this final day, families, children, grandmothers, everything, and you receive this very colorful, nice piece of paper you put on the wall, and you can in your office or bedroom, wherever. So I think this is a true, and the people like to touch something. This is one thing. Even everything is electronically available, and universities communicate if a person change a university, moving to another, from one university to another, not receiving any document or certificate that brings to the next university, that this second university, University B, can contact University A directly and receive all data relevant. But what is concerning the graduation and going abroad or using just the graduation document, this is a tradition. I think this is one thing why it is working. The second is that even we are talking about the neighboring countries or neighboring university, we can easily communicate, and even maybe we have bilateral agreements to use digital data. But to be honest, that in my office, also in the Central National Academic Recognition Office, 3/4 applicants are coming from third countries, and they have no such system. That also the competent authorities already can't go directly and automatically to digital system because they still receive majority of applicants from countries where is no such system. That means that they still have to keep this documented system.
Right. How about traditions?
I like the concept of the awarding the diploma. That's nice. But you can give it. That's beautiful. You can hang it. Well, actually, I love books. I come from a family of printers, and we love books. But I don't buy a hard copy of a technical book. It will have no worth in 2 months. I buy them electronic. I buy first editions or things like that. So that's a tradition we have to keep. But many of the problems we have actually is that we keep looking into our belly buttons. Because you are talking about third countries. This year in Melbourne, we were amazed on how advanced, on how hardworking are people in places like Tuvalu. Do you know about Tuvalu? It's a small archipelago in the middle of nowhere in the Pacific. They're a poor country. We had to subsidize them to come to Melbourne. But they came there and explained how they are working. Because the digital world is easier. And once you have it running, it is less costly to run. But when they come to Europe, as we ask for the paper, they have to produce a paper. So we are sort of feeding the monster, asking for the papers. I think that tradition is one of the showstoppers. Legislation is another of the showstoppers. We had that with identity. We ran a project for the Commission, and we have to bring under the same roof all the different projects that we're running with Commission money about electronic identity, and they were not talking to each other and reinventing wheels. That was crazy. And we had the problem with the privacy legislation until they came out with the GDPR. Because each country decided that, well, we like this privacy thing, and, well, we do it our way. No, now we have a regulation. That's it, the end. So probably we will need another regulation about digital data in education. And we should get more combined things like the GDN, the Groningen Declaration meetings, where people from all walks of life sit in the same room. Because when you were talking, I was just jumping in my chair, because we're repeating things that we have already dealt with in the identity space. Why? Because techies don't talk to the people running the data exchange for the accreditations. So bring more people from all walks of life working together, because we don't talk to each other enough. So tradition, and then money. Going digital is not a cheap endeavor. Unless you don't have anything, you can start digital, and that's cheap. But if you have something in place, you need money to do that.
Yeah.
And we're not getting much money for that in the universities.
Right. Kā ir ar tradīcijām? Ir svarīgi saņemt
What about traditions? Is it important to receive a paper diploma? The process is important. And the traditions that has been developed, it's nice to get the diploma, to receive it, to have the ceremony. When are you going to get your diploma? There's still some time ahead. But perhaps I won't get the printed diploma. I will get something electronically forwarded to me. But knowing that this is one of the first occasions when this matter is discussed in Latvia, and yes, indeed, everybody says that digitization is going to happen, we cannot avoid it. It's not a matter the direction that it will take. But we have to understand what's going to happen and what the benefits are. And knowing the advantages of it, we will be better suited for moving towards this direction and achieving. It's very difficult. You always see people resisting something unknown, but if these processes are explained, then things become easier. I believe we have questions from the hall, but you have to use a mic. And please introduce yourself and the institution you represent. I am Krišānis Polāns. I am from Ventspils, University College. I work at the International Relations Department. I'm also involved in Erasmus. And I have the following question to the panel members. What is your opinion about the influence of language barrier upon digitization process, including recognition of qualifications and documents, and what is your experience in this matter? And I would like Victoriano to be the first to answer.
For any given reason you want me. Well, I think that languages in the human world are a barrier. But once we go digital, we can easily remove them for data exchange. Because when we transform documents into data, data can be expressed in ways that machine can understand. And then once the machine knows what it's dealing with, then a human can tell that the meaning of those bits and bytes can be represented in several languages. So in one way, it could be a barrier because we need to interact, the persons beforehand, But once we get it in place, probably the language barrier will not exist anymore, because machines are good at translating meanings or representations of the meanings. So once we have the data in digital format, I think that it will drop.
Paldies. Any other
Thank you.
on that issue? Baiba?
Tas īstenībā nav vienkāršs jautājums. Vittoria,
This is not an easy question. It is easier for Vittoriano because he represents a very widely spoken language. In Erasmus applications, everywhere where we apply outside of Latvia, we have to use one of the widely used EU countries. We normally use English, but Via maybe could correct me if I'm wrong. We can also use French or German, or maybe other languages. It is different with the Latvian language because firstly, we have the language on the national law on the national language, and diplomas need to be issued in the official language of our country. This is what we are talking about. This is what we're talking about because it is the change of concepts and legislation, because the documents need to be executed in the official language of our country. I hope that you were able to receive an answer. This answered your question. Are there any comments regarding this? Maybe there are other comments or questions about how do we live in a digital world, or how do we become digital? You have a question.
My name is Dimitri. I'm representing here also higher education here in Latvia. I will ask in English. So you all mentioned the culture. The culture is the most important part in order to develop. And I'm just willing to listen from you. Maybe some advices or some thoughts about how to start to change the culture. Thank you.
Culture, traditions, new technologies or whatever. How to start to change culture.
You know how I do it?
I know how I did it.
Well, I do it by forcing. I started long time ago. We run. You know about the big failure in Spain with this plastic thingy for identifying citizens. They sent us a bunch of readers and materials to introduce this thing to the students. And after that, we ran that for 2 or 3 months. It was said introduction of the e-administrations to students and making it work and blah, blah, blah. And several months after that, someone rang me and warned me on the phone and said, we need that you send us a signed paper through fax saying that you have received this and you run the activity. And I said, no way. Oh, but it's someone in some organization inside the government. I said, no way. I'm not sending paper justifying. I will send you an electronic signed PDF telling you that we did it. But we need a fax. I said, no way. And every time he rang, I said, no way. But I said, okay, you go to the Director General of the thing and tell that Victoriano said that he's not going to send any paper. And if the Director General rings me asking me for the paper, I will send it. Did you get the call? Neither did I. So I always, when I get asked for paper, I said, no way. And now in Spain, we're happy because the government, when we had no government, we had a law that came into force. Actually, they were probably thinking about a moratorium, but it's in force. And the law says that you may not ask for paper. So now when I get asked for paper, I said, no way. And that's it. It's easy. It works. It's the same with you?
Okay.
and you are still working.
Yeah. I'm still working.
Lūdzu.
I just had a quick comment because we asked Victoriano also to send a scanned copy of his passport with the signature on it, and he said no way, and he put his electronic signature. You know what we did? We printed it out.
Yeah, at the moment they printed
got
it,
his
it
signature.
became fake.
Congratulations, you know.
If I
Gunnar?
also may put here that, of course, it's very difficult to change the culture. It's if you have already hundreds of years of traditions, that means a generation that take a new system. For example, in Estonia also we have now e-voting. That was impossible 5 years ago. It was absolutely impossible. Can we imagine that we vote electronically somewhere with your ID document in your computer at home? That means that everything will start with the national legislation to change the legislation. But politicians in parliament, in government, they are also people, and still they have people who are thinking like I do. Then we don't change culture. And another issue, it means doesn't mean only that one country changes the legislation. That means also all in the world we have to change this mentality. For example, in Estonia, we have now the system that we don't need to bring with us the driving license when I'm going to street to drive. So that means it's very, very simple because everything is electronically available by the policeman who is stopping me and just checking who am I and whether I have a driving right or not. But when I'm driving to Latvia, then I have to bring it. That means that I can't just disappear this or lost the driving license. I need it when I cross the border. That means also that this is a cross-border initiative and culture, not only in the one.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
thank you.
just one question. Think about the banks. How did they impose their electronic way on us? Just a question over.
Es vēl tomēr gribu teikt, ka
I would like to add that there must be a dialogue in the country between all stakeholders. Because if we do not talk about the topic, if we all of a sudden receive some kind of cabinet regulation that everyone must abide by, then it doesn't work. Maybe there are some people present in this room that when we represented learning outcomes in 2004, the Dublin descriptors, then you should have heard what the higher educational institutions said. They said that the terminology is wrong, the idea is wrong, and that nothing can happen. In 2011, we already had learning outcomes, and I think all HEIs write their curricula in the language of learning outcomes. So everything is happening, and it didn't take long for this to start happening. And I think this applies to other things as well.
This international thing also as one of the obstacles. Even in one country, for example, in Latvia or in Estonia, we just one day not issuing paper documents. Then this person, actually, we give one chance to move for mobility. Even it's possible in own country, but if the person going abroad, then there is impossible that you have no documentation. That means also that all in the world, in the country, we have to change the system and mentality.
Simultaneously, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ir vēl kādi jautājumi? Kāds? Lūdzu.
Any other questions, please? Please present yourself. Anna Fernanda, the Latvian Sport and Pedagogy Academy, Prorector of Studies. I would like to talk about the overcoming the social gap. If we look at various countries at various levels, do you think digitalization decreases or increases the social gap in the society or as such?
We would like Victoriano answer first. Just joking. Ik wens anyone. Who wants to?
That's a tough one. But the good thing is that I've done so many. When I look from today down my life, I've done so many different things that I happen to touch many things. Digital can close the gap and expand the gap. That's a problem, because if you do it right, you close the gap. Actually, in 1998, we did a beautiful project in Spain that was called Aldeas Digitales, digital tiny towns. I don't remember them. It's just tiny with 5 or 10 houses. And with that, we introduced the concept of a digital school. We provided them with video conferencing, internet access, and everything in the most remote tiny villages in the mountains. And those kids were so much digitally enabled that they could participate with any kids anywhere. And that closed the gap, because they were socially isolated. But then if you do things with smartphones, someone who cannot afford a smartphone, that's a problem. But they're becoming so cheap that maybe we should forget about doing plastic thingies for identification and go the Indian way. The Indian way is that they have forgotten about these stupid plastic useless things, and the official Indian ID card is a smartphone provided by the government. So, again, it's a matter of culture, legislation, and money.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Very good answer. Any other comments, remarks on that?
Although on the, I don't know, English, Latvian, I can try English as well, maybe, it's easier. Even looking from the, I believe you meant it as in a social dimension from different countries, not among one society, or what was it meant like? Okay, so from in different levels, the social dimension, and looking from the results of mobility survey, the digitalization may not do anything for the mobility social issues within mobility, because those are mostly connected with actually financing things. And is the digitalization really going to help with any of that? All the data collected earlier this year just says that the biggest issues within are housing and the amount of scholarships and all of that. So from mobility perspective, I don't think that digitalization is in any way going to help social issues.
Okay. Thank you. Paldies.
Thank you.
Maybe I return to question how to change the culture, and I share some pilot projects in Russia now for stimulate people. Sorry, because it's stimulate people to use the web portal of public services, because people go to the office, bring their papers, and all ages people. And young, it's easier, but for the older people, it's not so easy. So for 2 years, the government decide to below tax below by the 30%. All tax pays for all public services, for license to driving, for our service, for recognition. So if the people go the application through the web portal of public service, they pay lower to 30% of tax. For our procedure is now it's 6,500 rubles. So below by 30%, it's nearly 4,000. It's some for 2 years, this year and the second year. No, it's one of the measures, one of the tool to stimulate the people to the money stimulate to change the culture, and culture is changing now. And so I want to add that in our educational field, the very big input and role of Groningen Declaration, because the participants, our Russian National Center is participant of the Groningen Declaration, and all meetings and seminars and the papers expand the view for this problem and to stimulate to change and the culture. And I share this information with our our bureaucracy, our the ministry officers. And so it's one of the way, some critical mass and some persons and organizations which promote the theme.
Thank you very much. Money and governmental politics.
I can share another trick.
Yeah?
It's easy.
Okay.
Convince your government to pass a law that will enter into force when there's no government. That's what has happened in Spain. We had an electronic administration law that was absolutely useless because they got moratoriums and everything. And they created a law that was expected to come into force after elections. As we had no government for some time and then we had to repeat elections, the law came into force when there was no parliament, no government, no way to stop it for coming into force. Now every administration in Spain must go digital. No way to stop it. So now it's an unstoppable force. So trick your governments to pass the law and make it to force when there's no government.
That's a good way. Vēl, lūdzu, jautājumu.
Any other questions to our speakers? Any comments? Perhaps then at the end of the discussion, I would like to ask to all of you, one question to all of you. Let's assume we meet in a year's time or 2 years' time. What would be the short-term aims or some kind of outcomes that should be reached that you would want to see in the sphere of your activities and operations or in general in Europe that would bring us closer to changes in the culture that we have been discussing, so that we would have safe documents, secure documents, so that we would have documents that can be compared in a fast and flexible way. So what would be necessary? So perhaps the Students' Association, you go first. I believe we should start changing mentality and thinking on the level of administration to really make digitization possible. So we could strive for it, and so that this would become available and understandable to students, and also to avoid double work for administration when sometimes some things are not interoperable. And that, in general, would promote mobility. We are not approaching 20% that should be reached by 2020. If we promote mobility as such, I believe we also promote internationalization, and this brings changes in culture and in mentality in general. Thank you. Victoriano?
Well, to be quick, I would like the three wheels that Liga was presenting to really work together. So Erasmus without papers having succeeded into bringing a lot of universities into the network, easing the exchange of digital information, digital data, not documents, real data that can be translated and the language barrier can be overcome and you can apply in your language at your university, and then the data flows. You want to come to Malaga? Okay, you apply in Latvia, and then it will come. So I think that a bigger alignment between the legislators and the technical people, the practitioners, the people that know, not the techies like me, the people that know what's happening on the field.
Thank you. Gunnar?
From my side, very difficult to say, but of course, what we believe that one day really we are talking about the recognition of qualifications, not recognition of documents, because the most important is what we are doing is the qualification, skills, knowledge, and competence. How they are presented or approved, it doesn't matter. But I think that this using this electronic system in Erasmus program is one day also with the qualifications, final qualifications, because mobility is increasing every year from in every center, in every higher education institution. And one day we face, if we only receive documents and need documents, it's over our head. We can't manage anymore the system. So that electronically, it's a fast, it's a trust, and it's really one thing what we need very soon.
Thank you. Good suggestion. Baiba Ramiņa, lūdzu. Jums arī noslēguma vārds ir.
And so this is only the concluding remarks for you. Well, in fact, I think I took a more narrow view on this. In the Latvian context, I was considering practical things that we lack. We really lack diploma register. I would really want to see this. I would like to have diploma register and accessible to foreigners, to those who want to verify our diplomas, so that this would be also available in English. I would also like to have the system, which is now improved, that it should be available not only in Latvian but in English, so that anyone who wants to find out something about Latvia could find out information about higher education institutions and about diplomas. So also this information of higher education institutions should be made publicly available. I really liked this Stradiņš system, CV Online. It is already functional. Also, what was taught by the technical university also seemed to be very promising, this digital diploma supplement. And I really hope that when in a year the system would be tested, and I hope that we might have discussions on a national level and introduce something similar in all universities. I believe perhaps we have to talk more about it more frequently and to find out those sort of small tasks that we have done, so that we could take over the best practice and to become more digitized. Thank you, Baiba Ramiņa. And I would like to thank all the panelists who participated in the discussion: Gunnars Vahts, Viktoriano Hiralt, Katrīna Sprūģi, representative of the Students Association. Thank you for your participation. I would like to thank our guests from Russia, from Finland, Riga Stradiņš University, Riga Technical University, Liga. Also, thanks to you for your providing insight into program Erasmus without paper. I believe that this discussion was very interesting because this was the first discussion on this topic on this scale. I don't know what will be the topic of this conference in a year's time. I hope we will get to know again something new that the Academic Information Center will bring to us. And probably we'll be able to discuss also some achievements, some progress. And with this, I would really like to congratulate all of you and the best of success to all of you. Thank you.
Jā, mums vēl ir kafija.
And we still have coffee. We have coffee and time for informal discussions.